We're taking a little bit of a CFL break because, as you know, the man to my right, him and I love the NFL. Big Rat 310, once again back on the show. And look, I was going to come on here and fire off some takes, but before any of that can get done, and look, I could toot my own horn about what happened today, but I don't want to do that right now. The mega blockbuster that went down of the Rams saying, oh, we're not just going to open the door of the 2026 season. We're kicking the damn thing down, acquiring Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns for Jared Verse, a first next year. And I don't know the other picks. Last I saw was just they were still negotiating it. But I'll say this, and I know everyone likes to rip on Cleveland. You know, oh, they're the Cleveland Browns. I kind of like the fact that they ripped the Band-Aid off and just said, hey, no longer prolonging this. Just, hey, we're cutting you. It's gone. And also from the other side of this, too, I kind of like the addition of Jared Verse going to Cleveland. Obviously, he's not going to be Myles Garrett, but he kind of gets to be that, you know, true anchor of that defensive line in Cleveland. So I feel like for both organizations, it's a win-win. But ultimately, it's just showing for the LA Rams, they're not messing around. They're going for it. They want to be the host team again. They want to win their second Super Bowl in Los Angeles, ironically enough.
Yeah, I think it's a great move by both teams. I'm going to speak as I come over here and kill that light so that no one complains about the flashing light that was occurring over there. So I'll get that fixed soon.
That's all good.
So basically, I do think it's the ultimate win-win. I do think that it's a very rare trade where both teams are looking for different things. You know, the Rams need the win-now player. Yep. The Browns need the cap flexibility and the future picks. The future picks ended up being pretty good. It wasn't just a 2028 first. The other two picks that were eventually included in the final negotiation were a 2028, a 2027 first.
That's the other trade. That was a 2028 first.
Yes. And then the other trade was a 2028 first. Yes. Which we'll get to. But the Rams gave up a 2027 first, a 2028 second, and a 2029 third. So they got three picks, all likely three top 100 picks, plus Verse in this deal. And Verse, on the open, not only was Verse himself a first-round pick, on the open market, he probably would have netted a first-round pick anyways. Yep. So you're looking at, I think pretty significant, return. Our good old friend Adam out there on the streets, a longtime Browns fan, Browns sufferer, he is, very sad about this day. You know, he really wanted to keep Myles Garrett for the long haul. And he was unsure if the return was good enough. I think this return is as good as you could have done. This is better than what the Packers got what the Cowboys got for Michael Parsons. Because I think Jared Verse is a more valuable asset in the player return trade than Kenny Clark was, because Kenny Clark was already a much older player, was already on his second contract. So I think this is a great deal. Garrett, yes, Garrett is obviously the reigning defensive player of the year, but he's 30 years old. Who knows how much longer it's going to last? We are now seeing, with TJ Watt, the Steelers signed him to that massive contract last year. Yep. And they will get nowhere near this return if they trade TJ Watt now. Nothing close. Nope. And it just goes to show that when you wait too long, when these guys get to be 29, 30, 31, their price drops significantly. So I think Cleveland did really well here, getting all the assets they did. Myles Garrett, obviously, on a 5-win Browns team last year, he literally had maybe the best pass rush season in NFL history, and they won 5 games. He's not as valuable to your organization moving forward as he would be to a contender. So I think it makes perfect sense for the Browns, and I think it makes perfect sense for the Rams. I think there's no loser in this deal. If you had to pick one, I do think the Browns got slightly better value of the two, but I don't even want to pick a winner. It's they're both got what they needed for what their goals are moving forward. I think they both did great.
The Rams literally in a 3-month span have added I don't even want to say all-pro, an all-time defensive lineman in Myles Garrett, and an all-pro cornerback in Trent McDuffie. People, I think, kind of forget about that. So they're really out here showing, you know what, hey, because we can all admit the defense was kind of not the backbone last year, but it was kind of it bent a lot, broke mostly against Seattle, especially in that NFC Championship game. Well, but, even the model that they were doing last year in the playoffs, not covering against Carolina.
Yeah. Getting killed.
I'll be honest with you. When Caleb Williams threw that pick, I was just please, Rams, kick the field goal. I have Bears plus 4.5. Just kick the field goal and win so I can cover. But all that time along, I always knew with the Rams, the model wasn't going to be successful enough where you're winning, but you're not covering. I know we talk about this, just as you and I as sports gamblers. But I look at the non-covering thing, even going back to Kansas City in the 2 years that they got skunked in their Super Bowls, was when they were terrible spread teams. Now you translate that to the Rams, who are kind of trying to say, hey, we want to come in, we want to take over, but also, too, they know it because drafting aside, the Matt Stafford window's maybe 1 to 2 years max they have for it. So maximize your leverage now while you have it, because before you know it, and I'm not here to say the Ty Simpson Rams or whoever Rams end up being good or bad, but look, you're in a division where you have the defending Super Bowl champions. You have a San Francisco team where we can make all the jokes about the sump pump or whatever, just the electromagnetics and stuff with them. And obviously, look, you have a lowly bird in the desert. I don't even want to talk about that because, when you need a million needs, go for the running back. But with the Rams, though, this kind of shows the rest of the NFC, like, hey, they're the team to watch for. They're the team, even to an AFC, which we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think right now you can clearly state a surefire who's going to be in the Super Bowl for the AFC. I think they have about 6 or 7 teams you can make a case for, but with the NFC, though, this year, that whole division's kind of showing them, like, hey, you're here, we're up here.
Yeah, and I think to your point on the covering thing, to translate it from sports from gambling to the like on-field X's and O's reason, I think it's a very similar story. I think the Chiefs, those in 2020 and 2021, their defense wasn't quite at the level it needed to be in order to be the foundational piece of a Super Bowl team. And you saw that in 2022, even though their defense was bad in the regular season, in the playoffs, their defense started to play a little bit better. They started to get a little bit more stops against Jacksonville and against Cincinnati. And in the Super Bowl, it was just a shootout by both teams. But in 2023, especially, though, like the 2022 playoffs, they played well leading up to the Super Bowl. And then 2023, they were great the whole year. Their defense was top 5 in the regular season. It was top 5 in the playoffs. It was arguably the best defense in the NFL that year. So with the Rams, why are they not covering these long spreads? Because they're such a good team, they're usually going to be big favorites, and their defense is not getting enough stops. So when you keep winning these 1 touchdown, 1 field goal shootouts, you're frequently not covering. And when your defense allows 30 points to the 8-9 Carolina Panthers, and you come very, very close to going home, I know like we have a habit in sports of like using the result to dictate the process beforehand. It's like when a contender gets upset in an early round, we're like, well, obviously, they had that flaw. That flaw was always going to kill them.
Like what happened to Philadelphia this year.
Yes, and you could have very, very easily made that same argument about the Rams if they lost that game to the Panthers, because they won that game in a 2-minute drive at the very, very end of the game. Like, what if
the defense making a play when they had to against Bryce Young?
Yes, but what if on that drive, like when the Niners were driving in the red zone against Seattle to end the regular season, and the ball bounces off like McCaffrey's hands and Seattle picks it off. Like, what if that happened in that Rams-Panthers game as the Rams were driving in for the game-winning score? That could have very easily happened, and then the Rams would have been knocked out in the wild card round, and we all would have been saying, yes, they were a great team, but their defense wasn't good enough. We always knew that. We always knew that's what would sink them in the playoffs. It eventually did in the Seahawks game, but it very easily could have 2 weeks earlier. They were very close to that outcome because their defense was not giving them a good margin for error. Their secondary and their linebacker play was not giving them enough help. Now, obviously, when you get the Kansas City cornerbacks like they did, that helps in the back end. But then obviously adding Garrett to the rest of that team, because as people have pointed out, you're seeing these stats on Twitter these days. Like the other thing about the Garrett thing is it's not going to be so easy to double team him, because Fisk and Turner and Byron Young also have like super high pass rush win rates themselves. So if you just are double teaming,
Fisk is a very underappreciated for what he does.
Yeah. So if you have so much talent on that line that they're just going to be able to get pressure with 4 naturally. You're not even going to have to blitz at all. It's going to be like it's going to make their defense so much better. So yeah, I agree. Like they were obviously, look, when you lose in the NFC title game close, yes, very easily, they could have gone to the Super Bowl last year, but now you have a higher margin for error. Now you have your defense at a higher ceiling. You have the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year on the same team. Like, when's the last time we've seen that in the NFL? I couldn't even tell you when, at least not recently. So yeah, no, this is it firmly. I saw the Rams. They were already the Super Bowl favorite, but now they're even more so. I think now they're like plus 650, which is crazy low. Like even in the prime, what I mean by low is that like that the odds would be that short. Like even in the prime Patrick Mahomes Chiefs days, I don't think they ever got below like plus 400, just because in one NFL season you can never know what can happen. But the Rams team on paper is great. Now it's just all about, can Stafford stay healthy? Can they avoid like some of their older players going down? Like if Devontae Adams goes down or if Myles Garrett goes down. You saw with the Packers, they were lauded for that trade for Micah Parsons. Then Micah Parsons tore his ACL. They were about to be like the 1 or 2 seed in the NFC. They fall all the way to the 7 seed. They lose 5 straight games to end the season, and they're eliminated in the first round. Like it can happen quick if injury luck is not on your side. But it's a credit to the Rams, though. That's all you can say is is there going to be injury luck? Yes or no? That's the only reason you would think they wouldn't reach their potential.
Plus 550 to win the Super Bowl, and also Myles Garrett plus 430 for Depoy. Weirdly enough, though, I looked at the top 5 teams. It goes LA, Baltimore, Buffalo, Seattle, and New England. Those are the top 5 teams for odds wise for the Super Bowl. But I feel like we always say this with the FM picks mentality, where eventually it's going to come back to kind of bite a team. But I just feel like the Rams are more just saying, hey, eventually we might get there. But we're starting to learn with the cap and everything else, as our friend Greg has said for years. It's pretty much credit card spending. You just got to learn how to spend it right. You got to learn how to draft right. And with the Rams, they can say, hey, we can sacrifice not getting a first-round pick because we're confident in our abilities to draft, get good guys on day 2, get good guys on day 3, kind of like a Braden Fisk. Puka Nacua is another great example. Getting Devontae Adams on a very cheaper veteran deal to where he can come in and just produce at the clip he is. Drafting a Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, they're adding all these players through later rounds in free agency and trade to where then they can say, hey, we can go big fish hunting, get the Trent McDuffie, get the Myles Garrett, get those players where we're basically ready to say, hey, we're fully loaded, we're ready to go, and basically Brock Purdy is going to be on his ass a lot in Melbourne probably come September 10th or September 11th if you're actually in Melbourne at the game.
Yeah, and I think what you're seeing in sports these days, because sports, there's a common theme across all sports. You're seeing all these teams get sold in the NFL and the NBA, probably other leagues as well.
Seattle is coming next, by the way, for that.
Yeah, and basically these teams are getting so expensive. Like these teams are these family-run businesses are selling the franchise for like $10 billion, like $9 billion, $8 billion, and the problem is, that's great for the family-run business because they're cashing out like a ton of ROI on the valuation of that franchise, pass off the money to your kids, etc.
Yep.
But what you're seeing now is as the price tag goes up and as these teams get more and more expensive, there's less and less one individual person that can buy these teams. You're seeing less and less of these like one dynasty that just has $10 billion on hand to spend on an NFL franchise. Because those people currently, the owners we all know, from the Krafts to the Jones to the Mars to everyone, like they bought the teams when they were a lot cheaper years and years and years ago. And now that the teams are so expensive, no one person can
Jeffrey
afford
Lurie even add into that too. Even your guy, Stephen Ross, as well.
Stephen Ross, exactly. So, and what you're seeing now, though, is that the people that are buying the team, and you're seeing obviously owners like dilute some of their shares, like Stephen Ross did that. A lot of people have done that. You're seeing more and more private equity get involved. You're seeing more and more multi-group parties come in. Like
Buffalo did that as well just recently.
Correct, because very rarely can one individual person afford it. So you end up getting a lot of different people involved in the buying group, and then you end up splitting the percentage of the team across various levels. And sometimes to fill in that last 10 to 15%, you need to help get private equity to help out as well. So as you see more and more of private equity in sports, I think you're seeing that there's more of a financialization of sports. And why does that matter? That matters for the salary cap. I think more and more these days, you're going to find more and more teams that are designing their whole priorities around how to circumvent the cap, how to pass the money down to the future years, the credit card spending, the void years, how to take advantage of post-June 1 transactions. I think this is all part of modern sports now. That this stuff was always important, but I think it's even more important now than ever before because I think that's how you get edges now. Like the Philadelphia Eagles, Howie Roseman has said this. Like they have a lot of Wall Street guys in their front office. Like they have a lot of guys with a financial background. Why did they win the Super Bowl in 2024? Because in 2028 through 2030, they have the highest dead cap hit in the NFL. And I've seen Greg talk about that on his show too. Like everyone thought what the Saints did was crazy at the end of Drew Brees' years. The Eagles have done even more than that. Just no one knows yet because the bill hasn't come due yet. The bill's not due for like another 3 years. So like which is why it was critical for them to trade AJ Brown on June 1st and not earlier in the offseason because they need to save every dollar they can because they're about to pay a ton of money on debt. Like when Jalen Hurts won that Super Bowl, his salary was only taking up like 8% of the salary cap. Like even though he had already gotten extended, the price of his extension hadn't really kicked into how they were counting it on the salary cap. And that's creative things you can do these days. But I think basically it's a long-winded way of saying that like how you manage the salary cap moving forward, I think is a key part of NFL analysis, which is why I think that for the Rams, for the Browns, for every team, I think June 1st, we talked about this before we started recording, June 1st is going to be a big day moving forward forever. I think the amount of money that teams free up with post-June 1 releases and then with the amount of money they save on trades, post-June 1 trades that we know about in April, but they're not announced until June 1st, I think this is going to become more and more common. And every year, June 1st, I think you're going to see action every single year moving forward because as the salary cap is, as more private equity is involved in football, as the salary cap is more important in football, inevitably June 1st is going to be more important in football. And I think today was the first day of that, and you'll see that more moving forward.
Yeah, it was kind of like the first domino to fall because obviously, look, and we all know who I love and cheer for, and the fact that AJ Brown is final, like we can say it finally, just because we know it's been kind of fruition for months through all the smoke and mirrors, throughout the whole just call it what you want to call it with the whole coach and reporter stuff, but. The Myles Garrett one's just a more intriguing one, just because that's always been the thing for years. Like last year, how it went from I want out, I want to trade to here's a big bag of money, Myles. Here's $40 million a year and resetting the market. Because that's the thing too. We all know that now. I think getting paid in free agency is not even a matter of how much I think I'm worth. It's always I want to one up the other guy. Hey, Max Crosby got this. Oh, I want this. Oh, Trey Hendrickson got that. I want that. Best case too, it happened this year, even though he did deserve it, is JSN being like, hey, Jamar Chase is making this. I want to make more than Jamar Chase. And the Seahawks obliged and gave JSN the $42 million a year, even though, look, I love contracts in the NFL because there's so many, not fake numbers, but everyone will see the real number and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I've come to learn over the last 5 or 6 years with contracts, always wait until the real numbers, until the guarantees, until what the bonuses are, how much of it's performance based, how much of it's signing bonus. Because even too, like with this whole thing with the Patriots, on Friday, Michael Wenu, who's going into a contract year, a player I do not want the Patriots to lose, but we'll get into that later, converted $7.5 million into a bonus to free up cap space. And right away, all of us are putting the Brian Windhorst. It's like, now why would that be? But we know when moves like that happen, it's kind of like, oh, they're making moves for that. Like that's something Buffalo does a lot. I know Deion Dawkins has done it. I know there's been other players that do it as well. I think Josh has started to do it as well, where they start, converting money into a signing bonus. Travis Kelce's done it. That's one thing the Saints have done really well, actually, to restructure their money is for guys like, I know he's no longer on the team, but like a Cam Jordan would do that for years, where it's, hey, they take the money, they recoup it into a signing bonus. So, hey, you're guaranteed it up front. I feel like the June 1st thing is going to be written to a lot more contracts now, where you kind of realize with a guy, it's like, hey, there are the outs. Kind of now, there was the reports, I don't know if you saw this, but Josh Sweat and the Packers might be working on something there, which I don't know if that's just the Cardinals being the Cardinals or Jonathan Gannon getting in the ear of Packers management and Brian Gutekunst being like, hey, we need this guy to go along with Micah Parsons on our defensive line. Because for those of you who don't know, Jonathan Gannon now is the DC in Green Bay. So I do think you are right in that sense, where not so much getting in there before training camp, but also to the fact that the June 1st is huge. AJ Brown, Jared Verse, Myles Garrett, they're going to be their new teams with mini camp, which I think is more important than training camp on its own, because by the time training camp comes around, you want to be installing the playbooks and getting ready for the season, not, hey, plug and play and learn, boop, 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 here you go. Kind of like what the Patriots had to do with Cam Newton back in 2020. With this now, you get there for mini camp, you can run some drills, you can get familiar with the organization, work with the coaching staff, kind of get the internet excited, so where it's like, hey, for when training camp rolls around, it's no longer, hey, we got to learn to see what this guy can do. It's more, hey, we're ready to go. We're all hands on deck. We're going from here.
Well, and especially like Jeff Hafley, like my new coach, he mentioned in one of his pressers that like Micah Parsons was traded to Green Bay on August 28th. Yep. He had the whole defense designed for the whole year because he knew the trade was possible, but he couldn't plan for it. He was planning on a defense without Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons gets traded like 2 weeks before the opener, and they had to change everything. And it all worked out. It was all fine until Micah Parsons got hurt, but it was an incredible, like he said, it was incredibly disruptive to completely change the entire fabric because they're not like a pass rush heavy team. And so they get Micah Parsons and all of a sudden everything completely changes. And that they give up 40 points to the Cowboys like in week 4 of the NFL season, probably because it took some time to kind of put all those pieces together. Yep. So I do think it's a thing. I think the earlier you get these guys in, like you were saying, for training camp, for mini camp, I think you want more of trades. You want more June 1st trades and less mid-August trades. Yes. I feel like teams are doing better planning ahead of that. Like the Micah Parsons thing last year, if that were to happen again this year, he would be traded right around now, right around like a few weeks from now. It wouldn't have dragged on as long as it did. So I think that's a key benefit when you get these guys in earlier as well.
I do blame Dallas more for the dragging on than Green Bay.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's Dallas. It doesn't help that Dallas has a history of doing this with their other players too. So inevitably you start to wonder how much ownership's influence was involved there. Yeah.
Green Bay also lost to Cleveland 13-10 week 3. I just wanted to look up the schedule. Like they did have the tie, but they also did lose there. And then I know they beat Detroit handedly, and then obviously the Cleveland game too. So there's certain things too where now, hey, you want the DC to start installing the playbook. And now, like for the case of, on the note of the Dolphins, Chris Shula, who I still do believe is going to be a head coach one day. Yeah. He has the time now, work Myles Garrett into the playbook. I've had people text me about the whole Pat situation now. You know what? At minicamp, AJ Brown, Josh McDaniels is able to incorporate him in with Romeo Dobbs. With the Keyshawn Booty thing, I'm still waiting to see what happens there, but Demario Douglas, Matt Collins, there's all these intricate systems of the offense. Even Kyle Williams, another player people are not thinking about, to where it's now this whole thing of, hey, you can just focus, you can go forward, and you can go boom. The only thing I'm going to say really about the AJ Brown deal is, because I know everyone's waiting, not so much for New England to crumble, but come back to earth. And I have two takes about this. I think they're going to be a better team, but I don't think they're going to be 14-3 again. I think between New England and I think between Buffalo, they're going to finish probably one team will be like 10-7, 11-6, and I think the other one will be like somewhere between like 11, 12, maybe 13 wins between the two of them. Because for as much as I don't like Buffalo, I always know that as long as 17 is there and healthy, they're going to be a fighting team. Meanwhile, with New England, I think not so many people are waiting for them to have their downfall, but I think it's more just the overall last year was a fluke. Last year was not it. Because, and I'll be honest with you, was LA game kind of circumstance because the O-line for them team being terrible? Yes. Was Jared Sim getting hurt kind of like a lucky fall? You know what I mean? Bo Nix getting hurt, Jared Sim being the quarterback? Yeah, just take advantage of situations. The only loss from that the only storyline from that playoff run that still irks me is the fact that the entire week everyone was gassing up the Houston Texans defense. Basically it's like, oh, this seems the 85 Bears. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's just hold off. Like, everyone's saying because of what they did to Pittsburgh, and I think everyone thought, oh, they're going to come in and do that to New England. They did make Drake May stay tough, but here's my take on that playoff run still is, whenever he had to make a play, he made a play, and that's why they've won games. The one game he couldn't do that, that's the game they got skunked in the Super Bowl against Seattle. And I still do believe, even if had Denver gotten there with or without Bo Nix, I don't think anyone was beating Seattle in that playoff run. So ultimately with New England, I think it does add. I don't want to come on here and say, yeah, they are a guaranteed Super Bowl contender again, because like I said too, I think there's a handful of teams that have a chance to make it. Plus, I think there's a couple who really do need to make it. And basically that would be probably being like a Baltimore, not make it, or at least make a playoff run, like a Buffalo, a Baltimore, a Cincinnati, etc. Those teams where even I would throw Houston into that mix. I know a lot of people are thinking CJ's going to regress. The more I've thought about it, I think CJ is going to be fine. Mm-hmm. I just need to see him in those clutch moments to go and make a play. Because that's the one thing with him. The wild card, a lot of the times their defense is one. And that Houston defense just got dogs at every single position. Except I do think some of the Kamari Lassiter can be beat once or twice. We did see that in the playoff game against the Patriots. But to tie this all back to New England, though, take a 2026, better team on paper, but worse record. I don't think they'll be 14-3 again.
Yeah, I think the best way you can stave off regression, I'm sure, and I've heard some of the episodes, especially leading up to the Super Bowl, I'm sure you and your various Patriots co-hosts have had to deal with nonstop commentary about the schedule and everything like that. I will say, I've always said.
Can I say one more thing about the schedule? Because there's one game that always irks me in the postseason now.
What?
Is the fact that everyone kind of writes off that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, but for a lot of us Patriots fans, that was the game where we were all like, this team's got something.
And just because Baker got hurt and the Bucs got worse, that doesn't mean that game wasn't valuable. It was valuable. The Bucs were 6-2 at the time, so it absolutely did mean something. And not only that, I think everyone's completely ignoring that Texans game. And there's going to be a lot of Texans hype this upcoming season. I will not agree with it personally, but everyone's ignoring that they beat the shit out of the Texans pretty solidly, in the second round of the playoffs. To me, that's what answered the questions. I feel like people are using the regular season strength of schedule and Bo Nix getting hurt. And they're using those two things, kind of ignoring that Chargers-Texans thing in between. I remember several smart ESPN accounts that predicted the Chargers to win that game. That predicted the Texans to win that game.
NFL Live had the entire panel. The entire panel.
The entire panel picked Houston. And they even admitted, at the time, that it was a mistake. So, yeah, I think they got too much grief for the schedule. I think they were clearly one of the four. I think they were probably one of the four best teams in the AFC when you factor in that Mahomes was hurt, when you factor in that Lamar missed a month and the Ravens started losing a lot of games. When you factor all that in, I think by the end of the year, it was Denver, it was New England, it was Buffalo, and it was Jacksonville. Yep. And Buffalo did you guys the favor of knocking out Jacksonville. And then Denver did you guys the favor by knocking out Buffalo. So then all you had to do was beat Denver. I think those were the real four best teams in the AFC last year, and they just all ended up playing each other. And then eventually, I do think the Bo Nix injury affected things. I do think Denver probably could have gotten to the Super Bowl with Bo Nix, but I do agree with you that it wouldn't have changed the outcome of the game. I think it might have been a little bit. I think it might have been a little bit closer because I think Denver's defense was even better than your guys' defense. But
probably would have been lower scoring.
Yeah, lower scoring. Like probably doesn't have Bo Nix. Probably doesn't have that.
Like a 20-13. I don't think that would have been close, but I think it would have been like a 1-possession game.
Yeah, they also would have lost. Yes, to be clear, just would have been like I guess a little bit more respectable in the fourth quarter. But yes, general point though, how do you stave off regression from factors you can't control, like luck, like strength of schedule, like injuries, etc.? You improve the talent. Like everyone thinks it's New England's destiny to win like 5 less games because last year's team wasn't really a 17-win team when you count the playoff wins. It was really more of a 12-win team. It's like, okay, but now A.J. Brown's the number 1 wide receiver. Stephon Diggs is not the number 1 wide receiver. Like the dynamic is completely different. It's a
Romeo
team.
Doubs is the wide receiver too.
Romeo Doubs is the wide receiver too. Like
Elijah Vera Tucker's your starting guard. Jared Wilson's now your starting center.
Well, who knows? Maybe Will Campbell might be a starting guard at some point. Like who knows? Who knows? I'm just messing around.
I know.
General point though, and also everyone always the reason they were most underrated last year is that there were a lot of games that Christian Gonzalez. What was the stat that when Christian Gonzalez and Milton Williams were both healthy, they didn't lose until the Super Bowl, something like that. Because I think all their losses in the regular season, one or both of them was hurt.
Like
early in the
the
year.
Game against Buffalo, James Cook went cuckoo. Milton Williams wasn't playing in that game,
and Christian Gonzalez didn't play in the opener loss against the Raiders.
Yep.
Yeah. So like,
still the hamstring injury.
Yeah, so like it was some crazy stat like that when Milton Williams and Christian Gonzalez both played, they didn't lose until the Super Bowl. So I think even if I agree with you, probably not going to be a 14-win team anymore in the sense that you also don't have the advantages that last year's team had with the schedule. Yep. Now, granted, when people say that, they forget that one of the 4th place teams New England played last year was the Raiders, who they lost to. So it's not like the 4th place games where it was buffering up their schedule necessarily.
But we all know week 1's goofy though. That's why I always kind of give that loss with a thing. Like what? But like for example, you guys beating Buffalo and like you paying $20 to troll Aaron and
Greg and Greg and that guy, his co-host Greg and Aaron. Yes, that was. I remember I got him so tilted with my comment. It was absolutely hilarious. Yeah, like the Dolphins division games were like that, where the Dolphins couldn't beat the Bills for years when they
week were 2, even New England going down to Miami. That was a shootout.
Yes, it was.
You guys going week 3 to Buffalo on that Thursday night game, and that was a very competitive football game.
Yeah. In general point, like even if there is some regression with the schedule, they're a different team than they were last year. They're a better roster, in my opinion, on offense at least, than they were last year. So
defense too, Kevin Byard as well.
So I don't agree with the I do agree with they'll win less than 14 games just because in general like no one wins 14 games, like even Mahomes will struggle to win 14 games most years. But I do think they could be a better overall team, and I do think everyone is probably going too far when they predict regression because of the schedule without including the upgrade in talent. Like I feel like the Eagles, I think it was in 2023. The Eagles, they were super lucky in 1-score games the whole year. They started the year 11-0, and then they crashed at the end of the season, right? And they lost in the playoffs. And the next year, I was low on them because I was like, well, they got super lucky in 1-score games last year, and that was exposed at the end of the year. But what I discounted was that they brought in Saquon Barkley, was that they got Zach Bond to play inside linebacker, and he immediately became an all-pro at inside linebacker. What I discounted was they drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean in the first 2 picks, and they both became Pro Bowlers right away.
Yep.
You offset variance and luck and schedule with more talent. And I feel like that's the AJ Brown thing is exactly this. I personally, I can't believe this is coming from me of all people. I think New England's being underrated in the preseason discussion of the AFC. Everyone respects Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, because we always do every year, no matter what, because of those 3 quarterbacks. Everyone respects Denver, I think, to varying levels, especially after the Jalen Waddle trade. I think New England is right up there with all of them. I don't think there should be a teardrop after any of those teams. I think just blaming it because of the schedule would be a mistake.
Because of the 1-score narrative, and this is the other take I've been waiting to say, I really do think Denver's a more serious regression candidate than New England because of the 1-score stuff. Yeah. Like I look at the game, like everyone looks at the Giants game as Matt's a miraculous comeback. I'm like, no, you should have laid belt to them. Like what the Patriots did against the Giants. Yeah. The Commanders game, the Sunday Night Football game where Treylon Burks decided to be the player who Tennessee thought he was going to be.
That's a great game. That was probably my favorite regular season game last year. Commanders Broncos on Sunday Night Football.
Christmas night, Chris Oladukin almost beat
Denver.
They went 0-2 against the spread against the Raiders, 10-7, and then the weird ass field goal at the end of the game to cover the 7.5. Thank you, refs.
My lovely that was my favorite sports gambling moment all year. The Broncos Chiefs. I bet on Chiefs. I think I bet on Chiefs plus 7.5, and then I live bet Denver minus 3.5. And I covered both because I think they won by exactly a touchdown. It was beautiful. It was my only the only time I've ever won a middle NFL betting ever. winning both bets on both teams. But yeah, I get your point. Denver has similar regression arguments that New England has. Yes,
I could see Denver being the team too, where they kind of because that. Look, ESPN's banking on a lot of those two quarterbacks being healthy Monday Night Football Week 1. But the other one I have as well is with Kansas City. I still think they'll be good. I still think they'll be a team in that playoff conversation. But with the ACL and Mahomes, and I know everyone was saying, "Oh, he did it at the same time as Tom Brady." I can't fully say they're going to be in the Super Bowl next year. I can't say that. I think they'll be a team, and I think I could honestly see them being that team where towards the start of the season, it starts off a little iffy. It's like, is Mahomes? But then the end of the season, he kind of lights it up, and that's kind of like, like where the November, December, and that clock flips, and it's just like all of a sudden, oh, Pat's really good. Like the fact this year too that Thanksgiving night, Chiefs and Bills. Are you kidding me? Like as nonpartisan fans, we get Lions and Bears, Eagles and Cowboys, and then Bills Chiefs.
It's crazy. And yeah, I'm fully with you also on the week 1 thing. I am not at all. I know they're saying that now. We've been watching the NFL a long time. How many times? And it's a little different with Daniel Jones because he is at least at OTAs. But like, how many times have we seen these quarterbacks coming off these very serious injuries where they tell us in March, April, June, they're ahead of schedule, everything's on track, everything's great. And then all of a sudden in training camp, they're not playing into the preseason games. They're not taking any first-team reps.
You're going to see that with Malik Neighbors. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah, and they're questionable for week 1. We see this all the time. So I'm not yet convinced that he's just going to be back right away week 1. I think it could be a while. And
you're going to get Justin Fields and Jarrett Stidham, and you're going to enjoy it.
And unlike these other contenders that have like really well built rosters around them, like the Chiefs are still very Mahomes centric. And if Mahomes is not there, I know he's not Chris Oladikin, but I don't have a lot of confidence in Justin Fields and Jarrett Stidham winning like several games like with that roster. So
I feel like the Chargers in that whole division, like the Raiders are the Raiders. I still think the Raiders are kind of like that. Basically, like the Cardinals, where it's like just circumstance of your division, but they are going to be better. I do seriously think there's a chance the Cardinals are the worst team in football, even though they do have some talented weapons on that team, including like you have Jeremiah Love, you have Trent McBride, you have Marvin Harrison Jr. But when you have Jacoby Brissett holding out, I'm sorry, it's
so funny.
I know everyone likes to pick on certain owners for being bad, but I don't think Michael Bidwell gets enough guff for being as bad as he is of an owner.
Yeah, and like Jesus, like how does this not shut down? Like if I was running this NFL team, like I would tell Jacoby Brissett, it's very simple. You accept our offer, or we're just going to start Gardner Minshew and Carson Beck. Like we do not care. It's like you are better than them, but you're not better enough than them that it's going to significantly affect our mindset going into the season. We're probably better off as a franchise getting a look at Carson Beck, Canes represent, than we are like giving you reps for a whole year. Even if you come in as the starter, if we start the year 0-10, we might bench you anyways just to take a look at the 3rd round pick, like just because we want to evaluate the young players on the roster. Like I would. How is this happening? It should be pretty clear. This is our offer. If you do not take it, you will not be on the team. Like it should be that simple. And the fact that this is dragging out is so funny. Like it's one of the funniest NFL offseason stories.
Speaking of just with Miami players in general, not only the fact that I kind of like what Tennessee's going and I'm excited to see Cam Ward in year 2, I really like the fact that in what was not a good year 1, the fact that he is going to be highlighted on quarterback. I really like the fact that, for what he had to put up with, the fact that we're going to see everything about him on Netflix. I think that's really going to help not build his character case, but like kind of win people over and seeing like, hey, this is a guy you want to get behind and root for. And I know a lot of people are thinking for them, they could have gone defense. I really like that they went offense with Carnell Tate. I don't think Tennessee's going to be necessarily good, but I think they're going to be that, that thorn in their side, like a 7-10, 8-9, where like, because you have to remember this. And I know Robert Saleh got fired and Danny doesn't like him. And I believe Danny's going to that game week 1 in Tennessee. I believe he is. I remember when the schedule came out, I'm pretty sure he posted his flights. Robert Saleh did a lot of making chicken salad with chicken shit with some of those Jets teams in 2022 and 2023. Like 2022, they got off to that hot start, and then Breece Hall, I believe, tore his ACL in Denver. And then 2023, with Aaron Rodgers being out, they still were respectable. I think it was 6-11 or 7-10 that year.
Yeah, so. And Zach Wilson is not an NFL starting quarterback anymore, and he was a starting quarterback for 3 years under Robert Saleh. So like that tells you a lot. Danny's going to say he's a terrible coach. And look, he may or may not be, but look, here's one thing objectively. One of my ethos on the show. I yell at you guys over and over again that quarterbacks do worse in Miami, not better, as we saw with Ryan Tannehill, Jacoby Brissett, and Tyler Huntley most recently, and I think you will see with Tua as well. But not just that. I also think quarterbacks and coaches do worse outside of the Jets, the Browns, the Dolphins, etc. Say what you want about Robert Saleh. Adam Gase was better in Miami than he was in the Jets, and Todd Bowles was obviously better in Tampa Bay than he was with the Jets. So if you think Robert Saleh is going to be better in Tennessee than he was with the Jets, even if he's still not great, even if he's still not a high-end NFL head coach, all you have to ask yourself is being better enough on Tennessee versus what he was with the Jets good enough to get you to 8-9? And I think it very well might be. And in 8-9 for the Titans after the last 2 years they've had, last 3 years that they've had, I think they've been 4 wins or less 3 straight seasons. Like that's historic ineptness. That's like prime bad early 2000s early 2010s Jaguars teams. Like this is, if they can get to a 500 record and like be in the hunt, I think that's a great season for them. That's a great season for where they've been lately. And I think Salah's eminently capable of giving them that.
I do as well. And you know how you say everything about just like with them, because when I look at that division as a whole, you have a Colts team who's under significant pressure this year to turn it around, because we all know my feelings on, I believe you and I have mutual feelings on Chris Ballard. Just the fact, look, no division wins. I still think he's an overrated executive. And he also caused a lot of shit for nothing because he got skunked in an AFC Championship game. Then you have Jacksonville's a weird one because like they have players, but like they did lose some talent this year. You know, like Devin Lloyd's in Carolina now. It's gonna be interesting to see, but I do think Liam Cohen is a good head coach, so I do think they're always gonna be competitive. And I think Trevor Lawrence is I don't think we'll ever see that Clemson pre-draft hype Trevor. I feel like that was just overshot, but I feel like, say if Trevor Lawrence has like a Phillip Rivers career arc where he's always a competitive playoff quarterback, but he may never get the big one. Like he's always that player where he's chasing the dragon forever. He's chasing the Lombardi. I feel like that can be a standard for him where it's kind of like a respectable career. Kind of like what a Phillip Rivers, a Matt Ryan, maybe gets an MVP, that kind of sort of thing. And then you have Houston, like we're talking about, where, like speaking of when you talked about Philadelphia earlier, adding Reed Blankenship to free agency, I feel like the defense is always fine. But it's that offense and just like the offensive line, the wide receivers, running backs. Like they added David Montgomery, but is David Montgomery really the guy you're going to lean upon to run the ball there? I don't. He's a good 2. I don't know if he's the one. I don't know if he's an RB1. And then you kind of have Tennessee where they're kind of just like they're ready to play spoiler. And I like you said too. I feel like they can be a 2022 Detroit Lions where in like January of next year everyone's kind of saying hey, Tennessee moving into a new stadium, year 3 of Cam Ward, second year of Robert Saleh with Brian Daboll. We're looking good. So I feel like Tennessee's in that right position right now where it's kind of also Carolina-esque, where there's not a lot of expectations, but the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and Jacksonville won 13 games last year, and I think Houston won 12. I'd be very surprised if both those teams won that many games again next year. Not what I mean by that is I think one of them probably will. The odds that both of them win 25 plus games, that's just hard for any 2 teams in any division to do that. Like think about how good everyone said the NFC North was last year because every team had a winning record. No team had more than the playoffs. Yeah, Detroit didn't make the playoffs. Detroit and Minnesota, who both won 14 and 15 games the year before, they both won 9. And then Green Bay and Chicago both won 11. No, Green Bay won 9 games, and then Chicago won 11 games. Like when you're in, like with Tennessee getting better, I believe Tennessee lost to, I think Tennessee went 0-6 in the division, I want to say. I know they lost to the Colts. Well, I know for a fact they lost to the Colts twice. That I know. And they might have squeaked out a win over like the Titans or over like the Texans in week 18 or something. But Tennessee, I think, went 0-6 in the division or 1-5 in the division last year. That's not going to happen again. They're going to win more division games than that. And the Colts started out 8-1 and cratered at the end of the year. TBD on Daniel Jones' health. But I think Houston and Jacksonville will see a compression in their win total, but in response to Tennessee going up in their win total. And I think there's a case for Tennessee to basically carve out more wins despite the top powers in the top of their division. Obviously, I'm like you. I'm a much bigger believer in Jacksonville than I am in Houston. I think that Liam Cohen showed a lot of good. Trevor Lawrence, I think the last 8 games, they went 8-0. They had 25 touchdowns to 7 interceptions or something like that. Like they were killing teams. They were killing everybody. I picked them
and Travis Hunter was hurt.
I picked them to win the AFC. I knew them in Buffalo, and them in Buffalo was close, obviously, just like Buffalo and Denver was close, just like Denver and New England was close, and one of those teams lost their quarterbacks. I think all 3 of those games were coin flips in either direction. And with Jacksonville's defense, in theory, would do even better this upcoming season because now it's the second year of Campaneal's staff. And Campanile, who I know from Miami, there's a great clip online of him in Hard Knocks in Miami. He was great fiery leader that the Dolphins really miss right now. But Campanile in his second year, I think could see an even bigger jump in the defensive improvement since it is more continuity in the system. And Trevor Lawrence, like what Liam Cohen, Grant Udinski, and Anthony Campanile did last year, they all did that in their first season. Like what happens when there's a second year of data to pour over into the next season, Like I feel like this team can sustain. Houston, like you said about Montgomery, I feel like it's going to be the same thing with Houston as it always is. The defense is going to be awesome. The offense is going to be inconsistent. We're going to bitch about the running game. We're going to bitch about the offensive line, and we're kind of going to overlook the fact that C.J. Stroud has kind of been a below-average quarterback ever since his rookie year. Like,
I also do think that there is a world where even if they make the playoffs and same thing happens, they lose. I honestly do see a world where D'Amico Ryans. Like, I think they have to win the division, or at least be like, you can't just get, even if you lose a divisional game again. I know everyone's starting to joke about that, where they're the only team never to make a conference final in NFL history. But I really do think D'Amico Ryans is a very quiet hot seat candidate. I know everyone's going to go, oh, but they made the playoffs 3 years and all this stuff. Eventually, from what Houston was, there's got to be a standard of like, you got to deliver at some point in January. Because think about it. You win all these wild card games. You beat the Chargers. They beat
the Browns with Joe Flacco.
Yeah, the Joe Flacco Browns. You beat
the Chargers, and then the Steelers.
You beat the Steelers. So that was just I like to forget that game happened.
It's 3 teams who routinely don't win playoff games. Like those exact.
And then you had to play Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Drake May.
Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Drake May leveled up. And here's the thing in these playoff losses in the second round, they don't score. Like in that Ravens game, the Ravens game in 2023, they scored 1 touchdown. It was a special teams touchdown. They crossed the 50-yard line. They crossed field goal range once the entire game.
Yep.
And then in the next year, they scored 12 points. And then this last year, they scored like 16. And that was with like some New England turnovers, like that were helping them out along the way.
It was 1 touchdown and 3 field goals.
It's just they don't score in their I feel like we talked about this all the time with Greg on the AFC preview show. When I would look at why Buffalo's losing in the playoffs, and they would always lose because of the defense. Like every single year, the defense would just give up 30 to Mahomes or to Joe Burrow, and I would just be like,
or
why?
Bo Nix.
And it's like, well, yeah, and Bo Nix now is like, and like for my opinion on this past year, I think Sean McDermott deserved more criticism for the defense being so bad early in his career. I think last year the roster wasn't as good, and that was more of a Brendan Bean issue than a Sean McDermott issue. But there was a part of me that understood, and I think Greg understands as well, that like after a certain point, after like 7 years, like you get enough chances, like there's only so many times you can keep losing because of the defense, and the defensive head coach is never responsible for it. I think the real decision would have been to fire him years earlier, not when the defensive roster wasn't as good, because I think it's less likely it was his fault this time, but they let him get away with it the first like 5-6 times. So I'm not too upset about his firing. You look at Buffalo always losing in the playoffs, it was because of the defense. If you look at Houston always losing in the playoffs, it's always because of the offense. And are you really just going to fire the OC every time? They already made Bobby Slowick the scapegoat, even though Bobby Slowick was the coach for C.J. Stroud during that awesome rookie year that everyone loves. Bobby Slowick was the coach for that. And then the next year they were bad. Oh, Slowick sucks. Fired. And
he was a head coaching candidate after that year.
And now he's back. Now he's back in Miami. He's getting another offensive coordinator job with the Dolphins as he did last year. And now with Nick Caley, the new OC, who did not get fired last year, but is the OC again. Is that going to be the move? If you guys are bad in the playoffs again on offense, fire Nick Caley. And we're just going to do, and I'm coming to your point about the hot seat thing, because while I don't think he would be fired this year, I do think you get to a point when you fire the OC.
Temperature kind of turns up on the chair, though.
Yeah, because you eventually start to run it. You start to run out of people to blame. Yep. Like if you're just firing the offensive coordinator every time, and then maybe the next move is like don't extend Stroud. Maybe that's the next domino after that. Once you fire someone over and over and over again, eventually it comes on to you, because even though you're a defensive head coach, you're still the coach of the whole team. And if you can't hire, like what did Dan Campbell do well with the Ben Johnson move? It's not that Dan Campbell was an offensive genius, but he had enough wisdom to hire a good OC. And that's, I think, part of the job. Can you hire an OC that's good enough to stick around, that's good enough to get poached for a head coaching job? And so far, D'Amico Ryans has not shown that.
I did look it up, though. They did pick up his 5th-year option, so they still have 2 years to figure out.
But the extension is the key thing, because he's 3 years in, so this is year 4.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't get extended after this upcoming season, he's going to hold out a training camp. Like I've seen this script 1,000 times. Jordan Love and Tua both did that, like going into their 4th years. So
yeah, I was more or less just looking to see, like, did he pick up the 5th-year option? Or
fair.
Was it picked up or not? And then if you look at the AFC North, for example, like obviously we talked about Cleveland. Like, one thing I will say, and this is not to be disrespectful to either Cleveland or you guys, but the fact that you guys just basically admitted, hey, it's not Cleveland to a lesser extent, Miami to a fuller extent, where it's like, it's not working. We're going to tear it down. We're just going to build from new, and we're going to be that team that kind of, it's like a 5-year plan. So Cleveland's just Cleveland. They're going to be there, especially after today. I thought they'd be semi-competitive with Todd Monken. I still feel like they'll be like okay, but like maybe 6 wins. I think is best case scenario for them. Maybe 7. I don't know. I honestly don't think people are ready for how bad the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be. I really do think that for all the years of people that bitched about Mike Tomlin and wanted him gone, he's finally gone. You're finally going to realize how many games they won because of him.
And yeah, it is just because Mike McCarthy is an older coach, I think there's this assumption that, okay, it's not that we think McCarthy's that good, but he has like a lot of the Tomlin-esque features of being old and experience and coaching toughness and coaching turnovers, and coaching all that. But the problem is his first year with the Cowboys, they won 4 games. And I understand that Dak Prescott got hurt early in that season, but in general,
I think that was one where he had that horrible ankle injury against the Giants.
And six games, by the way. But nonetheless, yes, 6 games. He had the horrible ankle injury against the Giants. They went 6-10 that year. So Mike McCarthy in year 2, 3, 4 can probably establish the culture and establish the rhythm he wants. What if Mike McCarthy in year 1? Because, these guys have a different voice. Like Mike McCarthy and Mike Tomlin, like they come from different backgrounds, like they're different ages, like they have different experiences in the league. It's just a different voice that maybe he doesn't connect with these players the right way. Maybe that they need a year or 2 of adjusting to his way of doing things before they're comfortable with the way he runs a program. So just because in year 1, especially with Rodgers possibly getting even worse, I did like the Michael Pittman trade. We're Michael Pittman's fans on this podcast, of course.
We are.
Yes, and that was a smart trade. It was a need. Like it was rough in the playoffs. Like watching Kenny Gainwell down the stretch was like such a featured offensive target. I think he was voted team MVP, and it was just kind of tough to watch. It's like, man, we're so out on these other tight ends and on the other receiver options outside of DK, aside from DK suspension end of the year, that we're so reliant on Kenny Gainwell. That was tough to watch. So getting Michael Pittman was a smart move for that reason. But nonetheless, I think with what Mike Tomlin was doing with bad rosters and those older guys on the team that were carrying the defense, like Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, now they're even older. Cam Hayward is like 38. Like how I'm going to look this up exactly, but I'm pretty sure he's up there. Cam Hayward is 37.
Would you think he's a Hall of Famer, by the way?
Yeah, I think so. I think him and Calais Campbell both. When you can like be like a high
Calais Campbell's a lock. I think he's a walk in the Canton.
But I think these DTs, especially that remain great, like in their late 30s, I think they're very, very, very much a great choice. But yeah, I would put Cam Hayward in that level of discussion as a player, given all the stuff that he's accomplished for a very, very long time. It's unfortunate that he doesn't have the Super Bowl accolades that the other Steelers teammates have because he was drafted like right after their last Super Bowl run. But nonetheless, I'm looking at now 4-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, including a second-team All-Pro last year at 36 years old. He's getting it.
Also, he has an award that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to, but I like to pay attention to. He does have Walter. Yeah. I just feel like that's an award that not a lot of people talk about, but players like really want to earn. Like players love to earn that award.
But yeah, I fully agree. It is relevant. It does deserve to be brought up. And then on the football side, it's also like we were just saying, no Tomlin. What's the inevitable downfall of that? Mike McCarthy year 1 in Dallas, it didn't go so well. Older players on defense getting older. Jalen Ramsey, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, those guys are all another year older. Like as much as we like Michael Pittman, Aaron Rodgers getting older too. Is Michael Pittman enough to offset that? I'm not.
No true answer at running back either.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
Yeah, no, it's
up division too. Like Baltimore is the highest win total in the NFL. That would probably surprise people, but yeah, Baltimore is the highest win total in the NFL right now.
But here's the thing, though. I love how I know they added Declan Doyle at OC. I really like that move. They have Jesse Minter at head coach now. Yeah. The way I look at that, everyone's going to go, if they make the playoffs, win the division, Jesse Minter's head coach. I'm sorry, that's expectation. That's why head coach of the year is always the guy where, honestly, and I know he's in his second year of head coach, but if I were to have a coach of the year nominee right now, I would go Kellen Moore in the Saints.
Kellen Moore is going to be a sexy choice, yeah, because the Saints are they're a classic, like they could maybe go 10-7 and win the division this year in a not great division, a bunch of middling teams, and inevitably Kellen Moore will get coach of the year buzz, and that's how we vote for coach of the year. I like Jesse Minter too. Jesse Minter, what attracts me about Jesse Minter is he's just like Mike McDonald in terms of their backgrounds. Yep. Like Michigan DC, Ravens DC, like worked with Harbaugh's, and he also
Minter literally was Boz. He literally worked with the Harbaugh's.
Well, and like I remember listening to Matt Money Smith on the Heed the Call podcast before late season, and he was explaining how Jesse Minter and his staff, they were getting a lot of good secondary play and linebacker play from like late round draft picks, UDFAs. These guys were just coming out of nowhere and playing really well at cornerback, at safety, and at linebacker, and that's usually a sign of strong coaching. So I am a Minter fan, and I am a you can always trust you can always trust the Baltimore Ravens organization to be a steady double-digit win team year to year.
Yep.
Obviously, when Lamar's healthy. When Lamar's not healthy, that's usually when they win 8 or 9 games. But I think as long as Lamar stays healthy, I think they absolutely can be in that level. But yeah, I do agree with Colin Moore being a solid choice.
And then you have Cincinnati as well, where it's just I don't think they tear it to the ground, but it's definitely Zach Taylor's getting fired if they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I've made a lot of money betting against Cincinnati the last 2 years, and I'm going to do it again because they have not made the playoffs in 3 years.
They kind of hold on to that 2021 season like a kid who peaked in high school.
They've missed the playoffs 3 years in a row, and it's going to be a lot of the same thing.
Like Dexter Lawrence is good, but I don't know if it's enough to move the needle on that defense.
No, and the problem is like they're still so top heavy. Like all their money, a lot of their salary cap is mainly invested in like 4 or 5 guys. And then Joe Burrow, it's like I've never met a more injury prone quarterback that never gets flack for it like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has missed half of he missed half of the 2023 season and half of last year. Like 2 of the last 3 years.
2023, though, that was the organization's fault. I'm sorry. There was that Thursday night game he should have never played in.
He should not have played in that game. But last year he got hurt in week 2. This happens all the time with Burrow. Like I saw a podcast earlier this year that was like, well, I'm worried about Lamar's ability to stay healthy after this past season. The previous 2 years before that, he played 17 games and won MVP one year and should have won MVP the second year. Joe Burrow's been hurt 2 of the last 3 seasons, and like no one ever brings it up. Like I given their O-line, given their defense, and given Joe Burrow's inability to stay healthy, yes, at their ceiling, they're really good, but they just feel like a relic from another era. They feel like a relic from the 2019 to 2021 AFC. We're trying to win the same way with the same coaches, with the same offensive firepower, and I feel like it just hasn't adjusted with the times like the other franchises have. Like the Ravens have a new head coach. The Chiefs have completely turned over their roster. The Bills turned over their roster and have a new head coach. And the Bengals are just still trying to do things that way all these years later. And their win totals at 9.5. It's always stupid high. In 2024, Joe Burrow played 17 games. They went 9-8. Like even in the season he stayed healthy, they still just went 9-8. I love fading
Gerard Mayo. They lost to Jacoby Brissett.
They did in week 1. Week 1 is hilarious like that. So yeah, I will be betting under Cincinnati 9.5 wins again for the 3rd straight year. And I expect to cash it for the 3rd straight year.
Because they'll be 8. They'll be somewhere 7, 8, 9. It's
yeah,
all those 3 numbers.
And again, even if Burrow stays healthy, they could still go 9-8. They literally did that 2 years ago when he had 41 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. They went 9-8. Like people do not remember the Drew Brees 2014 through 2016 Saints, where they went 7-9 every year, and he threw for 5,000 yards all 3 seasons.
Yep.
Like people can't wrap their minds around the fact that you can have an elite quarterback and a mediocre team. Like it happens all the time in the NFL. So yeah, I'm excited to bet the under again for the 3rd straight year. And then when Zach Taylor's fired and they get new coaches and maybe they trade T. Higgins or something, then maybe I'll change once I see the roster approach changes. But they just kind of do the same thing over and over again. Like,
but here's the thing though with Mike Brown. Mike Brown won't fire people. It's like why Marvin Lewis wasn't fired for years. He wants to wait for their contract to run out, so he's not paying for them not to work for him.
Yeah, but Burrow's applying pressure now. I think that's the difference. Like Carson Palmer did apply pressure, but they just traded him. Yeah. I think they're less excited to do that with Joe Burrow. So.
Because they know that Joe Burrow is such a likable guy. And Mike Florio has had this take for years. But if Joe Burrows was born in Athens, Georgia, not Athens, Ohio, he pulls an Eli Manning.
Yeah, probably.
Yep. And then, like I said, with our division, look, I'll be honest with you. Like I said, you guys just is what it is. It's just like where the Patriots were a couple of years ago. Just there, you have a new regime in there. I do think the Troy Aikman hire is going to add a buzz, just in the sense of like some football moves that do get made. Like I like with Miami, it's just like the whole like hey, I like the direction in the sense of just being like, hey, we're not trying to be something we're not. We're ripping the Band-Aids off. We're getting rid of dead weight.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, it's the New York Jets that really excite me because I think there's a world either where they're like what I described Tennessee to an extent, but like not like 8-9 or anything like that. I feel like it's like 6-11, 7-10 maybe, because even last year too, I know they were terrible in the 0 interceptions. There was 2 sides of that team. There was the stinky Jets, and then there was the Aaron Glenn stuff on the sidelines. Remember, they almost beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. They took those teams to the brink. So I think if you get that with some of the moves they made, with some of the draft picks they've made, I think you get there. Meanwhile, Danny's hearing this right now and wanting to probably punch me in the face because he wants the team to be as bad as humanly possible. Because Frank, I do think then there's the other world where if by like week 4 they're 0-4, Frank Reich is the most obvious interim head coach of the year. I do think though, even if they do miss the playoffs, but they show signs of improvement, Aaron Glenn's job is safe. But if there is regression, or it's not even regression, if it's the same as last year, then I do think Aaron Glenn's gone. That's honestly my honest opinion on the Jets.
Yeah, the problem is they added a lot of guys. and I know Danny's not going to like this, of course, but
Demario Davis is a bit of an underrated ad.
And they with him, with Minka. And they had freaking 3 first-round picks and a high second-round pick. They added a volume of guys to the roster.
Kenyon Sadiq, David Bailey.
Even if the rookies aren't that good, or maybe some of the veterans are old, it's just the fact that they added so many guys. And the last month of the season last year, they just weren't trying. They tanked like no NFL team has ever tanked ever before. They started Brady Cook. They rested all their veterans. They got outscored by 25 points per game the last 5 games of the season. We have never seen anything like this. An NFL team straight up NBA style tanking, which is what they did the last month of last season. And
I love Josh Hobbs. I love Josh Hobbs as the Patriots' the Pasternaut as our backup quarterback last year. But when he throws a 23-yard screen tight end route to Hunter Henry as his first throw, fold the organization.
And it was so fun. One of my favorite bets of last year is I bet the Bills with their backups because I knew.
Oh, I did that too. Plus -7.5.
Yeah, because we know this. We know this all the time with Josh Allen. Like they love to play him for one snap and then pull him from the game. And then the Bills scored, and it was like close at first early in the game, and then eventually the Bills scored again, and the line was like Bills -14 with the backup court with Trubisky in the game.
Yep.
And I bet -17. I bet -20 because I was like, this Jets team is not trying. They're actively losing by 25 points a game every single week.
Yeah.
Like you can't make the line high enough. You can't make the line big enough to account for that. So, because they're never going to put like a -21 spread in the NFL, like ever, even with backups in the game. So it was funny. I just kept pounding and pounding and pounding the line, and the Bills eventually did cover. They won like 35-14, I think, or something like that. And it was a great betting day for me. And so the Bills, the Jets. Yeah. So to your point, the Jets were not trying the last month of last season. So I think those 5 games, throw them out. They don't count. They don't affect. And like Garrett Wilson wasn't playing either. Like they had just traded Sauce Gardner and Quentin Williams midseason. Like throw it out. Just doesn't count. And I unfortunately do agree with Danny. Do agree with you that with the volume of players they added, they'll probably accidentally stumble their way into more games. Especially since the Dolphins are an absolute disaster themselves. And somehow, some way, I just have a feeling in my heart that the Dolphins are not going to sweep the Jets this year like they did last year. They lost the Dolphins with all their problems last year, beat the Jets both times. I don't know if that's going to happen in 2026.
And then I give my little soliloquy already with Buffalo and with New England. I think it's just pretty much one of the same. Although I will say this, so from a scheduling standpoint, Buffalo's opponents at second place is worse than New England's at first because New England's got to play Seattle, Jacksonville, and Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, Buffalo at second place has got to play Houston, Baltimore, and now the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, that is a worse draw comparatively, all things considered.
And the other thing too with Buffalo is why no one's like saying New England's first few games are hard. Buffalo's first 4 games are also equally as hard. They got to play at the Texans, a place where Josh Allen has struggled in his career.
Yep. Lost today.
You got Detroit coming. You got Detroit coming here. Coming to them week 2, Thursday Night Football up in that stadium. Which, look, that's a great opponent. I know everyone's like saying, "Oh, it's Thursday Night Football." That's a huge get for Amazon. I love the fact
it's a fun marquee game, and it's Thursday Night Football earlier in the year. Like no one's beat up by that point. Like everyone's probably going to play. Like that's a good game.
And then week 3, Chargers come to town for them, and then week 4 they play the Patriots. Both New England and Buffalo are going to be tested early in the year.
They will.
They play each other week 4.
I think, and I think like the only question I have with Buffalo is there a culture element that was lost with Sean McDermott leaving? Like we know that Mike Tomlin was holding a lot of things in Pittsburgh together when the rosters didn't deserve it. Was Sean McDermott doing that too? Was it not?
I also have one question for you with them.
Yeah.
Do you think them getting a new stadium adds more pressure for them to win?
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because if the reason you fired McDermott is because you're tired of losing in the second round of the playoffs, right, or the third round of the playoffs, then isn't the very logical result of that you expect the next guy to take you like to the AFC title game, to the Super Bowl? Like, isn't that the standard?
I think anything short of an AFC championship appearance for them is considered a failure season again.
Yeah, and the other problem with what they did is when you promote internally like that and the GM is already kind of like a little bit on the hot seat, I guess, like why if they significantly disappoint, why wouldn't Brandon Beane possibly get fired? And if he's getting fired, you're definitely firing Joe Brady. It might seem harsh to fire Joe Brady after 1 year. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
It's putting off the inevitable if you don't.
Yeah, and I think there's more pressure. I think Joe Brady has as much pressure as a first-year head coach has ever had. Like he's being asked to be the missing piece, and I don't know if he can do that.
And then meanwhile, New England, it's just that like I said, I'm not ready to, and I'm actually wearing a shirt right now, but like I'm not ready to say that they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're definitely that like
they're a good team.
They're part of those teams that are going to be in the mix. It's going to pretty much come down to how do those divisional games go for them because they play week 4 and then they play again December. I don't remember the week, but it's December the 6th in Foxborough, 4:25 marquee game. Even week 1 is a 4:00 start, at 1:00 start. Week 4, 1:00 start. So that's the thing with those games there. Those games are really going to be the difference of what they do and what they don't do. And I'll also say this about the games last year. That week 5 game, Sunday Night Football, was the Drake May coming out party where I think the rest of the NFL world got to see, oh, this kid's for real. Like, all I wanted them to do was cover the 7.5 spread. They covered that and they won the game outright.
They won outright.
When there's that one play where he eludes Daquan Jones, finds Diggs at the 2-minute warning, and you hear that, I need people to watch this because Collinsworth has that little, like, he has a little chuckle that comes out. You hear it on the broadcast. That's where I was kind of like, okay, Drake's here. And then I'll say this about the second game where they basically blew a 21-3 lead. The way Josh Allen was playing, it was just one of those games. When Josh gets like that, you're not stopping him. It's just that simple. But that's just the thing from earlier. It's pretty much one of those two teams to win the division. I don't think there's a lock for sure. But I'll also say this. I still think there's more pressure on Buffalo to win than New England just because New England got to the Super Bowl last year in what was supposed to be the first year of a true rebuild. Think about that.
It's the first year. And Mike, look, if there's one thing you can look forward to, it's that Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, they sustained success over a 3-year run. Like the 2019 run was not isolated. It was 2019, 2020.
One of the first big hot takes on this show was Phil Nightmare 10 coming on here and saying that the Titans were going to beat the Ravens in that divisional round game.
And I think with that track record, you can have a little more faith that Vrabel can sustain that success he had a little bit year over year. Even with the schedule changes, A.J. Brown helps that. Ryan Tannehill was a much worse quarterback.
Staff's the exact same as well. No one left. Obviously, Terrell Williams no longer DC, but Zach Orr, who was pretty much who was the DC last year when Terrell Williams had his health problems, still here. Jeremy Springer, very underrated special teams coordinator, still with the team. There was some changeover, there's some turnover, and also Doug Marrone, his offensive line coach, was great for the line. I know people like to bag on Will Campbell, but I will say this though: the Caleb Lomu pick I was in favor for because everyone's kind of saying Morgan Moses probably not going to be here after 2026 or 27. So I do think eventually he swings into that spot. The Campbell thing, I will say this. We'll see how this year goes, but we have to remember too, he was basically playing the playoffs hurt with that ankle injury he suffered against Cincinnati. So a full year of a healthy Will Campbell, hopefully. Defense should be better than last year because there were some improvements there. There were some players lost as well. But ultimately, I really think the sky's the limit for New England. It's just really up to them how they do. But more than anything for them, it's not win the games you're supposed to win. It's don't lose the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah, I would agree. And so we'll see how the New England-Buffalo battle goes down. Definitely think Buffalo's under more pressure. Kind of like New England's roster a little bit better. So, yeah, I wouldn't shock me at all if New England repeats again. Like we talked about, go from 14 wins to 11. But you could still win the division at 11-6. So
yeah, and then even with the AFC West, honestly, that's a division I feel like it's really hard to predict, but I feel like people are going to kind of be sleeping on the LA Chargers.
We'll see. I have my questions about the LA Chargers.
I do too. I just think everyone's going to automatically pick Denver or Kansas City.
Probably.
I'm just saying, like, don't write off the Chargers.
I won't write them off. That's fair. Harbaugh has like one of the 10 best records in NFL history, like as a head coach. Like if you count the 49ers years, he's never had a losing season either.
I also feel like Justin Herbert takes too much shit than he should have. I feel like he's easy to pick on.
Yeah, I know, but I'm very sour. Like here's the thing. Like people, I've heard a few podcasts that have mentioned this. Like the thing with the Chargers is it always looks good on paper. And then their second or third highest paid player will get hurt every single year, just without fail. Losing Jesse Minter is a big deal. Like when Ravens lost Mike McDonald, Ravens fans can tell you when they went from Mike McDonald to Zach Orr, the defense got a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
So losing Mike McDonald mattered. So losing Jesse Minter, we'll see what happens. Mike McDaniel. I'm very anti-Mike McDaniel right now. So like my bias is colored and tilted by that. Mike McDaniel was terrible in Miami whenever Tua didn't play. He was really, really bad with every other quarterback ever from 2022 onwards, 15 points per game in the Mike McDaniel coached offensive games that Tua didn't play. That's including with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the field. What's the problem? The Chargers don't have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Nope.
Mike McDaniel is built off speedy receivers who win on timing, who win quickly at the snap, who know how to get to the right spot in the field at the exact moment that the quarterback's taking his hitch. Is Quentin Johnson going to do that? I'm not so sure. If Vlad McConkey is going to do that, is he going to stay healthy enough to do that? And does he have the speed to do that? Because he was not a 4-3 guy coming out at all. So stuff like that just gives me a little bit of pause, because Jim Harbaugh's whole, like, we're going to have a beefy offensive line and be ground and pound, and Justin Herbert's going to take shots and throw his bombs down the field, and we're going to do the smash mouth Harbaugh Michigan ball football. I don't think that's a philosophical fit with what Mike McDaniel wants to do. Mike McDaniel wants to do the track show that's all timing and rhythm based, that doesn't care if your O-line can win at the snap. He just needs the offensive linemen to be at their landmarks, especially on outside zone plays. And Jim Harbaugh was more of an inside zone guy, at least at Michigan, and so far his early years with the Chargers. I do wonder if it's like Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll was a good marriage on paper, and then we get to the season and they were having philosophical differences on how to run the offense. And I wonder if John Harbaugh and Mike McDaniel, while it's cute and funny and meme-worthy now, could that be a similar problem later in the year? Caveating and understanding that Justin Herbert's a much, much, much better quarterback than the other quarterbacks McDaniel had, including Tua, and is a better quarterback than what he has this upcoming season, what Chip Kelly had last year with Geno Smith. Caveating all that. I understand that. But I do think the philosophical differences, and I think the receivers, and I think the loss of Jesse Minter on the other side of the ball, I think there's a lot of questions. I'm not going to write them off. I'm not going to write off the team coached by a top 10 head coaching record in NFL history, a guy who has never had a losing record in the NFL. We glorify Tomlin for that. You can say the same thing about Jim Harbaugh. But I do think they're the rightful third in that division. And kind of like we talked about with Tennessee, are we really sure the Raiders are just going to be a 4-win punching bag again? Are they just going to, like, these other teams just keep feasting on the Raiders? Is that going to happen again? Are the Raiders going to go 0-6 in the division? Well, no, the Raiders did beat the Chiefs at the end of the year. That I know, because that was the last week of the season.
Yep.
But yeah, you get my point.
The one thing with just going on, like, I just like to say with the Chargers, like, I still feel like they'll be like 9-8, 10-7. I feel like that's kind of their like floor ceiling.
That's what they are. 9-8, 10-7, lose in the first round of the playoffs. That's what they do. Yeah.
My only thing with the Raiders is, though, I can't confidently say that I don't know if we're going to get Indiana Mendoza immediately. Like, you know, the Mendoza, because basically I feel like the way Indiana was structurally built, and I know I'm opening a wound for you, but just with Indiana winning the national championship, but some of the plays, you know, he was able to make, like, during some games like that, the one run the national championship, like, you know, the fact that the team in Indiana was so perfectly built. I don't know if the Raiders are that just yet. They made some great signings, like the Tyler Linderbaum. They had to pay the shit team tax, N'Kobe Dean. But when it comes to offense, besides Brock Bowers, besides Aston Genty, who's he going to really throw the ball to? You know, like, that's the big thing too. Besides, even with the whole offensive line as well, it's Tyler Linderbaum and Colton Miller to an extent, who's very, you know, wish-washy player. So that's just my big question with the Raiders. I feel like they can be good. I just don't know if they're going to be that playoff in the hunt threat. I feel like they might be not yet. I still feel like there's gonna be growing pains, but I feel like it's that thing, you know, where it's like we see the vision, but it's still a couple years away.
I get it, but this team also won, what was it, 3 games last year? 3-14?
Yeah, they beat us, and then they just went on, and then they beat us. They beat Tennessee, which got Brian Callahan fired, and then they beat the Chiefs at the end of the year.
Yeah, so this team won 3 games last year. So the question is, instead of winning 3 games last year like they did, would they win 6? Exactly. Would they win something small and insignificant like that to put them in a different level than what they've been doing the last few years? So it's very possible that they could still very well be worse than the other 3 teams in the division. They could still finish 4th. But if they have 6 wins instead of 3, then maybe they're winning some of those division games that they didn't win last year, going 1-5 in the division last year. So that's the one thing I will say. But I agree. Clear 4th in the division, not a playoff team yet. I agree on that. Mendoza, I really wonder if he's even going to play week 1. I think Tom Brady is serious about this whole, because Tom Brady, you know this, like he believes in his heart of hearts. He sat his rookie year, and he think that helped him. And I know everyone says this, and the rookie quarterback ends up playing, but I do wonder if this is an exception. I do wonder if Tom Brady and the Kubiak family actually genuinely believes that you need to sit the rookie quarterback for a while before he plays. So maybe Mendoza's not even playing until like week 7 or week 8. And that obviously would change everything. But yeah, it's just something to watch. I think they're the one team because of the owners. I mean, Tom Brady's effectively the owner, even though he's a minority owner. He's effectively the owner. He has all the power. Like,
he's a shot caller.
Yeah, Mark Davis lets him do whatever he wants. So when the owner has that belief, I do wonder if this is the one exception where they actually might sit the rookie quarterback.
And they'll get flack for it, but it probably is the right thing to do. And then the only other team we haven't talked about in that the two teams, obviously Denver and Kansas City. Like I said, I think both will probably be playoff teams. I just don't know what Mahomes are going to get +2.
Yeah.
You know, when when your top receiver has knee and jail next to his name, it's not exactly a good thing. And when your soon-to-be 37-year-old tight end is your number one option, I'm sorry, Travis Kelce should have retired. That's the thing I'll just stand on. It's just there was some. It was the Houston Sunday Night Football game last year where I'm watching him and I'm like, he's getting locked up by like average corners in the NFL. Like he was just in route running, he was just getting like stuffed, and like it was just. There was some plays where I'm just like, this isn't pretty to watch anymore. Like you're gonna walk into Canton, you're marrying like one of the biggest pop stars and one of the biggest stars in music. What more do you got to play for?
Yeah, and I do think the Chiefs have a lower floor than they've had in recent years. I mean, it's obviously easy to say that when they win 6 games last year, but Mahomes.
Well, you go from going to 3 straight Super Bowls to winning 6 games. That's why.
Yeah, and Mahomes.
And also, I'll say this too. I've seen people comparing sorry to cut you off, the Kenneth Walker signing to Kevin Durant going to the Warriors.
No.
If this was 3 years ago, I would say that.
Yeah.
This is not that.
No, it's not at all. And the Chiefs still have a receiver problem. They've had a receiver problem ever since that last Super Bowl when Kelce, who was mediocre in the regular season and in the playoffs, he squeezed out whatever juice he had left in that 2023 run. And then 2024, they didn't really have receivers. They just kind of made
Jerry Rice for receptions in a playoff run, or all-time playoff. For
all-time, yeah. And so they have a low floor because we don't know if Mahomes is going to be back week 1.
We don't know if he's going to be 100% with the ACL.
And yeah, who knows how he's going to play? Like Patriots fans will tell you that the year that Tom Brady came back from the ACL was his
worst. To the wild card by Joe Flacco,
and it was his worst. It was his worst like performance. Like it's not that he was bad; he was never bad, but it was worse than 2007. It was worse than 2010, where he won MVP both years.
Unanimous.
It was worse than 2011. You know, so Mahomes could very well be like a worse version of Mahomes, especially with this skill group, man. Like this you need talent. I mean, this is why part of me starts to believe that maybe they are just going to do the Tyreek Hill thing. I know they say they're not going to, but we see this all the time in the NFL, that there's plenty of, like the Dolphins, random note, well, because I do want to say something about the Dolphins after we finish with the Chiefs, but like the Dolphins last year, there was a report in March that they were interested in Rasul Douglas. And Rasul Douglas signed like in September, like right before the 53-man roster cut down. He and the Dolphins were communicating the whole summer. He just didn't want to do training camp. And he came at the very, very end.
Like this is called the Joe Flacco.
And I wonder if there's other veterans out there that are like that, like Tyreek Hill, where maybe he doesn't want to skip training camp, but he maybe doesn't want to do any of this nonsense until like late July. And maybe that's when he makes an appearance, because the Chiefs are going to need more help because I think that as Mahomes gets older, as Mahomes is recovering from injury, like relying on Xavier Worthy
coming off an ACL.
And relying on, like, if you look at the back half of their wide receiver depth chart after Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Tyquan Thornton, it is rough. I looked at it yesterday, and I'm gonna pull it up right now.
Yeah.
Some of these names will shock you, like Jimmy Holiday, Cyrus Allen, Jalen Royals, Jeff Caldwell, Amari Evans, Jacob Jesus, Nico Remigio, Jason Brownlee. That's their wide receiver depth chart, outside of Rashee Rice, Tyquan Thornton, and Xavier Worthy.
They're a couple injuries away from being really screwed.
You know, I know Greg may have been right about Xavier Worthy not being as good as he showed in the Super Bowl, but Keon Coleman was arguably even worse. So suck it, Greg. And we can at least say that Xavier Worthy genuinely got injured first quarter of week 1. It was never quite the same after that.
But I remember his rookie game against Baltimore, and he went crazy. But then eventually, with him, it's just, hey, give him the ball, let him run. But there's like saying, hey, you got to run a post to the left, you got to cut back in right, you got to go straight. He's not do that. He's just get the ball and go. He's one of those guys that's a combine star that everyone kind of falls in love with and gets infatuated with. To where that Baltimore game, everyone was going, oh my God, I can't believe Buffalo handed Kansas City the 6th great receiver. And he really hasn't been the same since.
Yeah, and I think Chiefs are going to need more wide receiver help. I don't think you can go in the season like this. Like with Mahomes' injury concerns, Justin Fields with this wide receiver group and old-ass Travis Kelce, like how are they going to score? There's only so much Kenneth Walker can do. Like I think that with Mahomes is the GOAT. Obviously, Mahomes will if Mahomes is healthy, he will figure it out. But yes, it wouldn't shock me at all if the Chiefs either don't make the playoffs again because of Mahomes' injury, or they make the playoffs, but this time they're a wild card team. This time they lose in the wild card round, et cetera, like Brady did in that 2009 season. The similar analog of Patrick Mahomes coming off the ACL tear.
I just really wonder with him more or less is, and I know we say this to Tom all the time, but because Tom never went to 3 straight until literally 2016, 17, 18.
Mhm.
He didn't do 3 straight. He went 3 and 4, but he never did 3 straight. I still want, and also here's the other thing too with the defense. The defense is not the same as it was. Like, look, Leo Chanel's gone. Trent McDuffie's gone. There's a lot of Justin Reed as well, not there anymore. That defense is not the same. Like Chris Jones, like I said, he's a walk-in Hall of Famer. I still feel like too, very underrated part of that Chiefs dynasty run is Chris Jones as the defensive tackle he was. I just feel like because of his position, he's not glorified to the same extent outside of Kansas City that Mahomes and that Kelsey are. But with Mahomes, I still wonder if all that winning so soon just quickly gets to him. And I want to see how do you adjust and develop, because we see with Brady only got better as he got older. I'm not saying Mahomes isn't going to get worse,
but we'll see how he develops.
But is he status quo?
Yeah, and they're going to need a lot of help from the secondary. Like, obviously, they got my boy Kader Kohu. They drafted Mansour Delane in the first round. Alohi Gilman came in. Like, there's help on the defense.
Terrible draft day trade, but yes, they got him.
Yes, but yeah, it's we'll see. It's just a lot of question marks. Like, they obviously have such a high ceiling. It's fucking Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Of course they go win the Super Bowl. But God, there's just so many more questions than there usually are.
What happens when Andy Reid retires? That's the other $1 million question.
Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, that'll be with the Chiefs. And then for my Fins, I just wanted to say a few things.
Go ahead.
This won't take very long because I have this is a very weird year. Like, we were so attached to that Tua, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill era. And now it's over. It was over as soon as Tyreek Hill got hurt in that Monday night game against the Jets. We all knew that. We all knew that at the time, that he was out for the year and he was not coming back. It was a very weird way to say goodbye to a Hall of Famer whose 2 best years were in Miami, not Kansas City. I'll remind everyone of that over and over again. His 2 best seasons were in Miami, not Kansas City. Hall of Famer just gone out of our lives. Tua regressed massively, just didn't seem to really care about football. And I agree with the decision to move on. But it was just sad that it got to that point that he was so checked out in the Dolphins organization that he just didn't care about the team anymore. And he let his play decline like he did and fell apart physically. Like, he was never like that. He was not like I've said it before on the show. That is not what he did in 2025. We never would have extended him. We never would have defended him on shows like this. We never would have done any of that if that's what it was going to be the whole time. He cratered, and he cratered so bad that you had to move on, which was the unfortunate part about it. And now I wish him well in Atlanta, but this Dolphins team, there's no emotional attachment anywhere. Like, obviously, I'm emotionally attached to the Dolphins. Always have, always will be. I've said it on this show many times. But there's no player that I'm super attached to, not even Achane. Like, I'm happy that they extended him. They extended him on a great deal. I have no idea why his agent agreed to that. It was basically a 2-year deal. It was like a 4-year, $70 million extension, but $32 million guaranteed. It's basically a 2-year, $32 million extension. $16 million a year, and then he has one bad year, one injury-riddled year, you can move on. Like, I have no idea why his agent agreed to that contract, but whatever. It helps the Dolphins. But even with Achane, I never get too attached to running backs ever because I know they're always like one ACL injury away from just being out of your life forever. So I never do get too attached to a running back. Jordan Brooks, like, he's a great player, but we didn't draft him. Like, it's been a great free agent success story the last 2 years. Same with Aaron Brewer. But we didn't draft them. We didn't hype them up throughout their rookie contracts and watch them ascend into players. And they're also it's a linebacker and a center. Like, it's not high profile enough positions to really get your attention on the team program, like a quarterback, like a running back, like a pass rusher, like a tackle. So yeah, it's kind of a weird spot. Like, all your favorite players go. Like, even Kader Kohu was a great story. He gets hurt in training camp, is out for the year, and now he's on the Chiefs now. Like, the whole roster got flipped over. Like, we were all excited to get Minka Fitzpatrick back. We thought that was a fun, cool story that he was back in Miami. He's gone. Now he's on the Jets. Like, there's no emotional attachment to any individual player. So I'm kind of in a blank slate where I don't really care how the team does this year. Obviously, logically, it'd be great to get the first pick in the draft and draft a great quarterback. It would be great if Malik Willis is better than we expect and he convinces you to bypass quarterback in the 27 draft, just like the Saints did with Tyler Shuck. And Jeff Hathley looks like a future coach of the year candidate in the next year. That would be great. I'm not expecting it, but that'd be great. But yeah, it's a blank slate. I have no attachment to any individual player. And you're kind of starting from the ground floor. Like, maybe you Patriots fans were like this in 2023. Obviously, Bills and Jets fans.
2024, 2023, I had false hope.
Okay, fair enough. 2024. And obviously Danny has been through this countless times. The Jets are kings at the organizational reset. And I'm sure Greg's Bills were at it too before Josh Allen got there. We're kind of at the beginning stages of that, where it's kind of just like there's no one on the roster you're attached to. There's you have no investment in whether or not the team wins or loses, because it's kind of good for you if they lose, and you don't really care if anyone gets fired right now. Like, it's not gonna break my heart if Malik Willis is a bust. I just met the guy, like, as a fan, like in terms of, I've never met him, obviously, in terms of my fan investment rooting for him, I just met the guy. Yeah. Like, it's not gonna break my heart if he's bad. Like, it is what it is. Like,
that was me with Jacoby Brissett 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, fair enough. Like, there's no pain there. Last year was painful because you were watching guys that you had rooted for years start to get worse, start to fall out of favor. And like we as like us Dolphin fans, like, and I was very loud in our group chats about it. Like, I was very on board with trading Waddle. It just didn't make sense to me. We're completely resetting. We're turning over the entire roster. We're taking on all this dead cap, and we're about to give Jalen Waddle like a $30 million a year extension. No way. Like, it wasn't the right time for that. So, and they got a great return for him. They got more for him than the Eagles did for AJ Brown. So I was A-okay with that trade. But yeah, it was kind of sad watching all your favorite players leave. Like watching Jalen Phillips, who we really rooted for when we drafted him in 2021, get traded midseason. Bradley Chubb was like a fun team leader for several years. Even last year was like a vocal voice in the locker room, and now he's on the Bills. Like, it's just like all the guys, like all the guys you were rooting for are gone now. And it's just a really strange feeling to see all your favorite players go. Like even Rasul Douglas and Jack Jones last year at corner. Everyone said last August we would have the worst cornerback room in the NFL. They were dead wrong. Rasul Douglas and Jack Jones off the street did an admirable job. Rasul Douglas was legit good. Jack Jones was up and down, but he was at least solid. He won us that game in Madrid, which was cool because I was there for that. And they're gone. They're both gone.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the whole roster. It's a complete blank slate. Like, it's a complete blank slate. No investment. No idea how it's going to go. Just kind of along for the ride. I do not think this will be a surprise success story. Their wide receiver room is awful. Their cornerback room is awful. And I think it's going to be really hard to surprise and win in the NFL when your wide receivers and your cornerbacks are terrible. There was a tweet that went viral the other day on the Sleeper Dolphins channel that Greg Dulcich is looking like Malik Willis' number one option in OTAs. Yeah, that's because the other receivers all suck. Like, I did like drafting Chris Bell in the third round. I'm a fan of his. He torched the Canes. All the top receivers in that draft, almost all of them that everyone hyped up, they played the Miami Hurricanes defense last year and they underwhelmed. Carnell Tate, huge bust in the quarterfinal round of the college football playoff. Everyone can look up his numbers. Casey Concepcion, bust in the octafinal round against the Canes. And I'm a Casey Concepcion fan. Don't get it twisted. But nonetheless, he disappointed. Like Omar Cooper disappointed in the national title game. These are all guys that went in the first round. Chris Bell put up 137-2 against the Miami Hurricanes with Louisville, like with not great quarterback play. Like Chris Bell looked like a future NFL player against the Miami Hurricanes. And the Dolphins drafted him in the third round because he's coming off the knee injury. And I think he could be good. I think he does have a high ceiling. He profiles like an AJ Brown, kind of like a player. Yep. But he's coming off a knee injury and he's not going to be part of training camp. It's like on a terrible team. Like when is he going to have his first 100-yard game as a Dolphin? Like December? Like November? Like I have no idea. So yeah, I think without Chris Bell, with a wide receiver room of Tutu Atwell, Jalen Tolbert, Caleb Douglas, and Malik Washington, and like a tight end room that's including, Greg Dulcich, who was a solid, like, surprise success story last year in the second half of the season. He made some good plays, but Darren Waller's not back on the team, and Darren Waller was the actual best tight end on the team last year. And then you also factor in that now at the cornerback room, aside from Chris Johnson in the first round, who I did like as a draft pick, Storm Duck, Juju Brents, Alex Austin, Ethan Bonner, Jason Marshall Jr., Darrell Baker. That is the worst cornerback room in the NFL. And that is the worst wide receiver room in the NFL. And if you have the worst wide receiver room in the NFL and the worst cornerback room in the NFL, I don't know how you magically pull off what the Saints did, winning 6 wins out of nowhere. That's because Tyler Shuck was good. That's because Chris Olave was a second team All-Pro wide receiver. Like, do we have anyone like Chris Olave? No. Like Juwan Johnson was surprisingly good for a tight end. Like I just
and adding Jordan Tyson in that.
And adding Tyson now in the first round. But yeah, I don't see it with this team. I do think this is going to be a terrible team. I do think it could be like the 2019 Dolphins where they get better as the year goes along. Maybe they win 3 of their last 5 games, and maybe they finish the year 5-12. And it's like they're a bad team, but the arrow's pointing up. They got rid of all the dead cap. They took the majority of the dead cap this year. So they're just accepting, we talk about salary cap being important in the NFL. When you break a record for amount of dead cap in one season, because people don't realize it wasn't just Tua. It was Tua. It was Tyreek Hill. It was Jalen Ramsey from the trade last year. We're still paying that dead cap right now too. And Teron Armstead and a bunch of other guys. Minka Fitzpatrick has a dead cap charge, a small one, but still. Like when you take on this much dead cap, Bradley Chubb too, when you take on this much dead cap, you're probably not going to be a good team because so much of your salary cap is devoted to players who are not contributing to your roster. Sometimes it's just that simple. Can you get lucky and have 5 UDFAs magically turn into second round pick quality players? Of course, that can happen. Can you project it? No. And I think with Malik Willis, I think Malik Willis is going to have like a classic like up and down year where he throws a lot of interceptions. He makes some highlight reel plays every now and then on a down to down basis. He's probably inconsistent. And he's that kind of guy that like Mina Kimes goes on a podcast like in December and says, he had 18 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. But if you really watch the Dolphins closely, like he's talented. He's just in a horrible situation. Like I feel like that's what the narrative is going to be. And I don't know how that's going to really translate to winning football because the secondary is just going to get completely demolished every single week. Like unless Chris Johnson is a Quinyon Mitchell first team All-Pro S player right away, which again could happen. But how do you project that? I think this is not a good roster. I do think they're going to finish 4th in the AFC East. Maybe they surprise and win 5 games at the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 4. I think their 4.5 win total is right on the money. I think it deserves to be 4.5. I do think they're going to win 4 or 5 games. I do think the Jets are going to be better than them. And I think we just kind of have to, emotionally as a fan, as you've been there, Greg has been there, Danny's been there, sometimes you're just at the starting point of a completely new organizational rebuild and you have no attachment and you're just along for the ride. And that's my ride with the Dolphins this year. I will not get mad at any game they lose. Like I'm just along for the ride. And we'll see what happens.
So I'm just going to add because, well, not to the Dolphins. I don't have anything to add. You summed it up perfectly. Also, shout out Alex Austin, Patriot legend. But the A.J. Brown cap hit numbers have come out for this next 3 years.
Oh, nice.
This year is 7.04 mil.
Wow.
10.9 in 27 and 17.8 in 2028.
For the Eagles or for the Patriots?
Patriots.
That is crazy. That's why the Eagles didn't want to trade him.
Yeah, that's why the June 1st thing comes to fruition. I know we've been talking for a while. Do we want to just quickly just with the NFC? I don't have too much to say. Like when I look at the North, I don't know what the Bears are going to be just because of I think the Bears it's more defense than anything. And pass rush. And here's the other thing with them: will we figure out Caleb Williams? Is there eventually those games where Caleb kind of has those? Like not stutters, but those moments where it's kind of like, do we get the Caleb we saw in 2024? Obviously, I'd have trusted Ben Johnson, but I don't know. And the other take I have, because I think of what's happening today when we're seeing depth at wide receiver being tested, I don't know if the New York Giants are going to be this great team. Everyone's kind of painting the picture with John Harbaugh coach because bringing back OBJ is a nostalgia move. Juju Smith-Schuster.
That was crazy.
OBJ
was terrible with Dolphins. That was crazy.
I honestly think with that team, I think there's more to the Malik Neighbors injury than we already know. Yeah. You and I talked about it in February. Apparently, at when they were at their media exits and all that stuff like that, he was still walking around with a crutch or a cane, and he just had cleanup surgery I think a month ago. So I really think that there's a chance that either Malik Neighbors doesn't start the year or he's not just 100%, and then that player he bounces back to be what we saw in his rookie year. And with the rest of the team, I think defensively they're going to be good. I just don't know if I can confidently buy into Jackson Dart just yet. I know he's got better weapons. I just don't know if I can confidently do that.
I don't know if he could stay healthy. Like how many get like that? The
Is
style
it bad
of,
to say if I have the same concern for Cam Scadaboo?
It's fair. They're reckless players, and like that style of play where they don't care about their bodies, they throw themselves into the fire. You cannot survive. Like he's not built like Josh Allen. You cannot survive.
Don't look at what he did against the Patriots. Christian Ellis knocked the daylights off him.
And I remember watching him. Like it's one of those things like with Jalen Waddle. Us Dolphin fans know because we complained that he was always injury prone. And then Greg Rosenthal and everyone who thinks they're so smart is like, he only missed 6 games in his Dolphins career. Yeah, we know you fucking moron, but we know that he was in the injury tent like every third start. He would have an injury and he would leave the game for 2 quarters. That happened all the time. And you don't know that because you're not smart enough to follow the team like we are. We saw that all the time. Routinely. Waddle will get knocked and everyone would just be like, oh, there he goes into the tent, 2 quarters. Not going to see him again until the 4th quarter if he came back at all. But because he started the game, it logs as a start. Jackson Dart, it was similar. If you watch these Giants games, especially early in the year last year, I swear every week, even when he wasn't hurt, he was sent to the tent for an evaluation. It happened constantly.
Remember the game when Brian Daboll went chasing him down because he wanted to put Russell Wilson back in?
Yeah, because he didn't want to, and and they were also playing the Eagles. It was on national TV. He knew his job was on the line because he was very close to getting fired. And yeah, he was like begging Jackson Dart to leave the medical tent. That was crazy, crazy bad luck. But yeah, there were plenty of games where he was just in the medical tent because he got another hit on a scramble. And he will not last a full season if he plays like that. You're already seeing it with Jaden Daniels. Like Jaden Daniels, as great as his rookie year was, he couldn't survive the hits that he took last year. And these guys, like I do think one thing we're seeing in sports in both the NFL and in the NBA, as everyone gets bigger, stronger, faster, injuries are more and more common, and it's more important to be able to avoid hits. And I don't know if Jackson Dart is going to play like that. Because if Jackson Dart just scrambles like that, I think he's going to get in trouble. So yeah, I am also similarly concerned about Jackson Dart and Scadabo's ability to stay healthy. I just don't know if they're wired that way.
They have to go play the Rams week 2 in LA Monday Night Football.
Yeah, and they play the Cowboys week 1, and Dak.
There's a good chance they're 0-2. There's a very good chance they're 0-2.
Someone posted that stat, like Dak against the Giants, like since he became it's something absurd. It's like since his sophomore year, it's like 25 and 3 or whatever.
I don't think he's only lost like a couple of games against them.
Yeah, and usually when the Giants beat the Cowboys, it's usually in a game where Dak got hurt. It's almost never when Dak is the starter. But yeah, Dak record versus the Giants is something ridiculous.
They also did this a couple years ago. Also, I remember the game because we were on for Dimes in prime time, week 1 Sunday Night Football, and they got skunked. I think it was like 25 or 30. It was at least 20-0. It
was 40-0.
Even worse. But I remember that game though, and like right away, because everyone thought the Giants are back. Like even now, it's the same sort of thing with the Giants, where it's kind of like even I'm looking at their schedule right now, like versus the Cowboys. It's also Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football with the Rams. Then they have to play Tennessee. You get Arizona, so that's a bit of a breather. But then you get Commanders, Saints, Texans, and then like even that's a tough 3-game stretch right there because we don't know what the Commanders are going to be.
And he lost. And the third loss that Dak had against the Giants was last year, week 18, but it was also the game where Dak got pulled at halftime. So in terms of when Dak plays the full game, he's 14-2. The 2 losses were both his rookie year in 2016 when the Giants had that great pass defense. So from 2017 onwards, he is 14-0 when he plays the full game against the Giants.
Even I'm looking at their schedule too, like even after their bye week, Eagles, Commanders, Jags, Colts, Niners, Seahawks. And to finish the year, like you get the Cleveland Browns, but here's the other thing too to finish the year. You have to go to Detroit on Monday Night Football. You have to go to Dallas, which is probably going to end up being a marquee game one way or another. And then you finish versus an Eagles team who's either going to be maybe in the playoff hunt or trying to lock down the 1 seed. So I think you're just victims of your own division, honestly. I think, and just the play in general. Unless Jackson Dart has this like revelation of a second year and he ends up being an MVP candidate, I just don't know if I can comfortably say that they're going to be a good football team immediately. I just don't know if I'm comfortable.
Especially with all the hype they're going to get, like in the summer, and as the season starts with John Harbaugh and Jackson Dart, like it's going to be a big, hyped up organization, and it's very possible that Dart doesn't stay healthy. It's very possible that losing Dexter Lawrence is a bigger deal than we give it credit for at the time. There's no guarantee that Arvell Reese and Maui Noah will come in and immediately make an impact. So yeah, like I'm with
There's also no guarantee that Kayvon Thibodeau's there week 1.
I'm with you on Giants skepticism. Especially, and I think the Cowboys are going to be better too. So I think factor that in as well.
I also do think Schottenheimer's a very underrated Coach of the Year candidate.
I agree.
I know everyone kind of clowned the hire at the time, but I feel like he's kind of the perfect man to run it. Like because I think with the Cowboys too. Offensively, it's the same as last year. I like Javonte Williams. They have the Tylers on the offensive line. CeeDee Lamb. We'll see what happens with George Pickens.
You're referencing that schedule release video. But yeah, great call.
And then Jake Ferguson, a tight end. And then the defense is going to be better. And
Caleb Downs is a star. Caleb Downs is a superstar.
He is. And here's the other thing, too, with I feel like with the Cowboys. I think had Dak been drafted anywhere else, he's not as heavily criticized as he is. If he has the same career arc, say with Jacksonville, he's viewed as probably a borderline top 10 quarterback, if not already top 10 quarterback.
He is a top 10 quarterback.
No, you know what I mean, though. Like borderline. Let me update that.
Yeah.
Borderline top 5 guy. If he has that same career arc with Jacksonville, but it's because you wear the star in your jersey. It comes it comes with the territory. You're expected. You are the quarterback for America's team. And also with the Giants skepticism too, I'll say this: if the Giants end up being good, it's great for the league. It's kind of like what we're seeing with the NBA right now. with the NBA Finals. We have Knicks, we have Spurs. That's a market. Those are two markets that the league is happy to have in the finals. Unless
It's
your
gonna
name's
be a
Charles,
very
unless you're Charles Barkley.
That's a great meme. It's gonna be a very well viewed game. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Those teams. It's Wemby, the Nike superstar with the Knicks. Yeah,
and the Knicks are just a team as a whole that are just great.
Yeah.
But with these two teams though, with the Giants and the Cowboys, like that's the thing too. Why everyone's like, oh, it's always week one. There's a reason for that though, because the NFL wants these franchises to be good. It's like why the Bears. It's like the Bears getting all these marquee games this year because the league knows if Chicago's good, it's good for the league.
And and even though I'm normally when it was like the Joe Judge, Pat Shurmur, or the Joe Judge. I mean, not the Daniel Jones, Pat Shurmur, or the Daniel Jones, Joe Judge, or the Daniel Jones, Brian Dable Giants. I get it. I get being annoyed at them always being primetime week one. But, like for all our skepticism about the Giants, the John Harbaugh thing is a big story. Like, I think it's a perfectly fine. I think it's a perfectly fine week one game this year.
It's just my thing with them is that if I just feel like this year, I don't know. They can't be bad. They have to be.
No. There's a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure. I don't think Harbaugh's a one and done because I think Harbaugh's got a lot of power and say there.
Done, but the expectations are high. Like the fans, especially if like Jersey people, like our friend Jared, he's like convinced that the Giants are going to go 11-6. Like, and there's a lot of Giants fans like that. And I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying a lot of hype and a lot of expectation. More realistic. Yeah, and when you have a team that's won like 6 games or less 3 straight years, and I think the last 2 years it was like 5 games or less.
Who's basically been a dysfunctional clown show ever since they beat the Patriots in 2012.
And when you just it's just a lot. Like this is someone posted the stat. I forget since when. I think it's since 2017. I'm not sure.
Since they went on the boat, yes.
They posted a stat that the Giants and the Jets have basically the same record over the last like 9 years. And if you ever think the Jets are going to go 11-6, you're a clown, right? But like the Giants were like not making the same exception. And look, they have a high ceiling. I do not know if Jackson Dart can stay healthy. And if Jackson Dart is going to miss like 6 games because he's constantly in the concussion protocol, like how do they win 11 games? Like I just struggle to see it.
I honestly think there is a world too where if Jackson Dart has that same similar just performance arc, if he's always hurt or he's just like he's just having careless interceptions or fumbles just because of his play and he's playing hero ball. You're not Josh Allen. You're not proven. So where it's like next year where it's, hey, I honestly think if by 2027 they haven't turned it around with him, they're going to bring in someone else. They're going to draft a new quarterback and go from there because this is a market that needs to be good. This is a team that, like I said too, the reason why they're on these primetime games the first 2 weeks is because the league wants the Giants to be good. And we're not, like, look, do I like to clown on the Giants because I actually do hate them as much as the Bills? Yes, because I have my personal vendettas against them. But I know that they're good for the league. I know that the Giants are good for the league because they are one of the icon franchises because it's New York, for Christ's sake. Just my only thing with them is, though, if Jackson Dart's not healthy, if Cam Scadaboo's not healthy, if Malik Neighbors is not Malik Neighbors, because, like I said, too, I think it's really realistic that he doesn't play in that week 1 game against the Dallas Cowboys. What are you?
And he's, like him, there's so many, for all their potential, the health questions of Malik Neighbors, the health questions of Jackson Dart, the health questions of Cam Scadabo. It's like, there's a lot to like.
Cam coming out of ASU. It's just, I feel like I just don't know what to say with him. That's just the thing.
You gotta, like, you can't, like, NFL players are bigger and faster than they've ever been. Just every year by year, as training methods improve, as these guys are groomed on how to be professional athletes, as they're paid like millionaires.
You think you're the biggest and strongest guy? Guess what? There's someone stronger and bigger than you.
And if you're reckless with avoiding contact because of vibes, because of like heart, because of like the thrill, I just don't know if you could survive in this NFL. Like you're seeing it over and over again. Like these guys that can run. If you want to run in today's NFL, you either need Lamar Jackson's speed or you need Josh Allen's size. If you don't have those two things, you just can't play that way anymore.
I want to look up their depth chart just because I'm actually genuinely curious on what's going on with them. The other thing I will say too, just with the NFC as a whole, I know we talked about it earlier. I do think that I honestly, if every coach in the NFC right now, I think the biggest hot seat candidate would probably be Todd Bowles, by the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's clear. He almost got fired last year. I absolutely think that he's one to worry about because of the pressure, the expectations. Like they're in a point as a franchise where if they don't make the playoffs or if they lose in the wild card round, it's kind of not meeting the organizational goals. So yeah, unfortunately. And look, it's a veteran team. Like I know they did turn over. Like Levante David's not there anymore. Mike Evans isn't there anymore. But yeah, things can get ugly quickly. They fired their OC last year with Grizzard. We talk about this all the time. You keep firing the OC. What's
well, they kept getting coaches jobs, to be fair.
Yeah, he did. Yes, at first, correct.
Dave Canales and Liam Cohen.
I'm aware of that, but the whatchamacallit, the Liam Cohen effect and the Dave Canales effect, those guys are doing better at their new places than the Bucks are now. And that's bad for Bulls because it almost makes people wonder, were they really the brains behind the operation here in the first place? And if that's the case, that's not good for your ability to keep your job when those guys are not here anymore.
By the way, the receivers after Malik Neighbors are Darius Slayton, who I really don't think should have re-signed a contract with the Giants. He didn't really have a good year last year. Darnell Mooney, who's just kind of been bouncing around everywhere. Malachi Fields, Isaiah Hodgins, Calvin Austin, Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Hyatt.
And Braxton Berrios. Braxton Berrios signed today too. Oh, hey, if they're trying to replace Gunnar, obviously if you're trying to replace Malik Neighbors because you think he's going to go on PUP to start the year, then I get taking a shot on Juju and Odell or whatever. If you're trying to replace Gunnar Olszewski because he tore his Achilles in OTAs, Braxton Berrios is the one they signed today that actually has the special teams background. Maybe he's actually the one that would make the team. But yeah, signing Odell and Juju is just hilarious. Odell hasn't played in 2 years. He's 34 this year. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. That's the thing with that organization where it's just, like I said too, they're going to be I honestly think out of all the games week 1, and I know we have Patriots, Seahawks, Rams, Niners in Australia, they have a bad game against the Cowboys. It's going to be magnified because you're Sunday Night Football and because it's New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with Harbaugh, I think if they have a truly bad game, it's going to be magnified. And also, do they have a tight end for the first time? I feel like since a competent tight end since probably Jeremy Shockey. Is Isaiah Likely?
Yeah, probably.
To run down the rest of the NFC, we talked about the West to start. The North, I don't know what to think. I think it's a play it out and see. Detroit's a team that really intrigues me just because I don't think Dan Campbell will get fired if they have a bad year, but I think if they underperform, I think the external noise will start to get a little bit louder.
Maybe, but it would give them a few more years because they've just
Oh no, not that. So not in that sense, but it's more in the sense of, was 2023 truly, you know how he says the quote, that was our best year to win?
I got that.
Does that get magnified more of?
Give them a shot to reimagine the franchise. And, the Lions, unlike some of these other teams, the Lions haven't tasted this level of success before. They obviously didn't win the Super Bowl like they wanted. But in general, that 3-year run from 22 to 24, they haven't had that in a long time. I think they would be scared to move on from that. This is not like the Ravens.
I do think they would do the quarterback thing, though.
Possibly.
I think they do the quarterback thing before the coach.
Well, they've also done the offensive coordinator thing. Now Drew Petzing's coming in. We'll see how that goes.
Uncle Fester?
Well, they especially admitted that the John Morton thing was a mistake last year, that Dan Campbell had to take over play calling midseason. So that's never a good sign.
I did like the Calvin Shepard at DC though.
Yeah, I agree. And look, those are all good teams. Those teams all had winning records last year. I think it's we'll see what happens. We'll see who's healthy. We'll see who gets lucky with the schedule. I would like to favor the Packers if Micah Parsons can come back, but it kind of feels like slipping on the banana peel. They've been the 7th seed every single year ever since Aaron Rodgers left. So I'm a little antsy about picking them to win the division, only for them to finish somehow, some way, finish in the 7th seed again.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
And then the South, and also with the East, I'll say this as well. Philadelphia, even with the trade today, I still feel like they'll be good, but I think it's kind of that how good.
Watch the Jeff Stoutland moving on thing. I think is interesting because they pride themselves on elite O-lines every year. If Stoutland's not there,
Lane Johnson on the back 9.
Lane Johnson, he almost retired. Like this could be his last season. So yeah, just let's watch that. Let's see how that goes. I'm curious how those guys play without Jeff Stoutland.
I know they won a Super Bowl without him, but they haven't been the same since Jason Kelce retired.
No, and now that you don't have AJ Brown, if you're also not going to have a great offensive line either, that's a problem because now the limitations of Jalen Hurts and the limitations of Saquon being more inefficient without great protection, that could be a big problem for the offense.
Their wide receiver room is really weird. It's like Dontavian Wicks. I keep randomly remembering they signed Hollywood Brown.
Yep. Makai Lemon.
Exactly. It's just a very weird wide receiver room. I don't know why that spooked me.
But yeah, South, I like the Saints. I'm sure you do as well. The Panthers will depend on how consistent Bryce Young can be. Bryce Young has weeks where he looks awesome, and he has weeks where he looks terrible. He has weeks where he looks up and down. He's maybe the most schizophrenic, like week to week quarterback I've ever seen.
Their defense intrigues me more than their offense.
I agree, and it should get better too now that they added Jalen Phillips as well. But we shall see how it progresses. Evero has a history of being a great DC. I know he's had some bad rosters the last few years, but maybe this year, with some of the talent that they've added with Devin Lloyd as well, maybe this year the defense can take him to another level. So I think Arrow's pointing up on the Saints. I think it's pointing up on the Panthers because the defense was holding them back. Now the defense is going to be better. I think Arrow's down on Tampa Bay.
What about Atlanta?
Atlanta's a tricky one because they have so much talent. Like Dolphin fans are worried that Tua is going to immediately be a better version of himself. Just like when Ryan Tannehill left the Dolphins and he was in a quarterback competition with Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota started the season as a starter, got benched for Tannehill, and then Tannehill went nuclear the rest of the year. Dolphin fans are very worried that could be a very similar story where Michael Penix wins the starting job, but maybe he doesn't keep it, and then Tua comes in. And what did Tannehill have? Tannehill had Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Jonnu Smith. What does Tua now have? He now has Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. It's eerily similar. Eerily. They play in a dome. The weather thing's not going to be a problem. If the Tua that we saw last year is the Tua forever, then we're not worried at all. Like he's not going to care. He's not going to play bad. He told the media this past week that football is his part-time job and his full-time job is being a father. He also said that he doesn't care if he's the backup if it means his team can win a Super Bowl. There's definitely continued warning signs that he, like Deshaun Watson, got paid and then stopped caring. And if he doesn't care, if he doesn't take care of his body, it's not going to matter. But if he does regain his 2022, 2023, 2024 form, I do think he has enough offensive talent to maybe surprise because the Falcons were 8-9 last year, but they were a disappointing 8-9 because they had a lot of talent. They had a lot of expectations. They have a lot of guys on both sides of the ball. They've been quietly drafting good offensive linemen. Although they were kind of given a weird setback with McGarry retiring randomly this offseason. But yeah, I think the Falcons.
Didn't you guys beat the Falcons?
What?
Didn't you beat Atlanta?
We did beat Atlanta. We beat Atlanta with Kirk Cousins. But yeah, the Dolphins. That's probably why Tua got that job. Like teams love hiring the guy that whipped their out. Tua's best performance last year was against Atlanta. And maybe that's probably why they kept him. So
one of Drake London's best performances was against the Patriots, but we won because they missed a field goal. So
the Falcons, they beat the Rams last year late in the season. Bijan Robinson might be the best running back in the NFL now. I know he doesn't have the pedigree that the other guys do with the pelts on the wall that like McCaffrey and Derrick Henry and Saquon have in past years.
Should not step on a field till he has a new contract.
Yes, and those three guys are a lot older now. Like Bijan is entering his running back prime right now, getting into year 4. But yes, he will get paid. I like the Dolphins paying Devon Achane before Bijan got his extension because that Bijan contract is going to be very, very hefty. So
same with Jahmyr Gibbs.
I think the Falcons. I think what we're seeing in the NFL is I think what wins now. If you don't have an elite quarterback, if you don't have literally Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, etc., if you don't literally have that, you need to have a solid quarterback who's not getting paid that much with a great team around him. I think that's what Sam Darnold on the Seahawks. That was the moral of the story of Sam Darnold and the Seahawks is you can absolutely that's why I hate this quote that football people say it all the time. Well, can you win a Super Bowl with that guy? You can win a Super Bowl with any top 20 quarterback. If the roster around them is good enough, you can win a Super Bowl with a lot of people. Jalen Hurts is not good. He is not a top 10 starter. And they won a Super Bowl and they went to another one. Jimmy G damn near won a Super Bowl. Sam Darnold won a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy damn near won a Super Bowl. We see Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. We see the story over. Jared Goff almost won one with the Rams. We see the story over and over and over again. If you're a top 20 quarterback, you're not making that much money, and you have a great team around you, you can win the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying the Falcons have that, but I think they have some good playmakers on both sides of the ball. I'm a big Avion Terrell guy, and getting him, the fact that they drafted AJ Terrell's brother, I think is really cool. Jesse Bates is one of the best safeties in the NFL. They have talent on both sides of the ball, but they underperformed to their talent level last year. So I don't want to predict that they're all of a sudden going to perform it now under Kevin Stefanski. I have no idea. Is Kevin Stefanski better outside of Cleveland, just like all the Jets coaches are better outside of the Jets? I think it's possible. I think
he went to do Coach of the Year awards.
Yeah, he did win 2 Coach of the Year awards. So it's I don't know. He's by far the best coach the Browns have had since they came back as a franchise. It's not arguable.
He also went to the AFC Championship game. I think people forget that.
Almost, he came very close to beating the Super Bowl. The guys who represented the AFC in the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think arrow pointing up on the Saints and Panthers, arrow pointing down on the Bucks, arrow pointing sideways on the Falcons. Could go either direction. We'll see.
there's an alternate universe where it's Cleveland Buffalo in the AFC Championship game and Tom Brady skunks Josh Allen in the Super Bowl, and I think Bills fans is 13th reason why. I'm looking at their offensive line right now, like Jake Matthews, Matthew Bergeron, Ryan Newsel, Chris Lindstrom, but then they have Jawan Taylor at right tackle, who we know is a liability. But that left side of the line, like Jake Matthews, super underrated left tackle.
Yeah, and Caleb McGarry retiring at the start of the offseason was like, it's one of those weird, like Drew Dahlman retiring for the Bears, also a former Falcon. Like stuff like that you can't really account for. But yeah, we'll see.
Man, Bears fans were not happy with that one.
No, it's a big loss to lose your
center. They traded with us to get Garrett Bradbury, who's now their starting center.
But yeah, like the NFC South, it's truly maybe the only division in the NFL.
I don't think it's the bad division anymore. I don't think it's going to be like 8-9 wins you the division. I think it's going to be at least 9-8 or 10-7.
I do agree on that, but I think aside from the NFC North, which is probably the other example here, it's truly the division where genuinely all 4 teams can win the division. Genuinely. Like the NFC North and the NFC South. I think you can make that argument seriously for all 4 teams. And I think in the AFC, that's not really true in any of the divisions. The Dolphins have no shot. The Raiders have no shot. The Titans, even if I think they'll improve, I really don't believe that they can win the division. And the Browns, even if they improve, I don't believe they can win the division. So
Browns are weird because they're not. I just don't know what to think of Cleveland. That's it. I agree with you on that, though. I think arrows pointing up on the Saints. Mainly because too, like, and the Tyler Shuck thing was perfect because I know at the time kind of clowned it because of his injuries. But if you think about it now, look, this year, best case scenario, he improves and you hit on a second round quarterback. Worst case scenario, he regresses, you draft someone next year. It's as simple as that. The Saints are pretty much in a win-win going forward. Greatly managed, great just coaching overall. My only question with them really is the defense. Just with the losses, like guys like Cam Jordan, guys like Demario Davis, because I do think both guys, like, I think Cam Jordan's one of the more underrated defensive tackles of defensive ends of the last 15 years because he's just the consistency's always been there. Like they do have Brian Brisset, they do still have Carl Granderson, they have Caden Ellis, Pete Warner, they Chase Young, but their running back, their cornerback room with Kool-Aid McKinstry, Justin Reed's pretty good, and then Travis Etienne and Alvin Kamara's the RB2 there now on the depth chart. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. And also Zach Wilson's there as well, by the way, in New Orleans.
Yeah, so that'll be an interesting division to see how it goes. On the NFC West, I don't really have anything. I mean, I think this is the most understandable division in the NFL. The top 3 teams are all great.
It's a Dragons meme. You have 3 great teams and you have the doi.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think there's any drama here. Like those 3 teams will be great. They will all compete for the division and for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And the Cardinals will be a top 5 pick in the draft team. I think it's that simple. I don't think, like, there's no mystery here, The Cardinals don't have the quarterback play to go on the random second season run. What is the drama? The only drama on this whole division is, like, are the Niners going to get destroyed with injuries again? Like,
I have a theory with the Niners about Kyle Shanahan, and just does eventually enough get to be enough with him and John Lynch, but I feel like they've had enough success to where it's sustainable. But is there an alternate universe where Andy Reid retires and Kyle Shanahan goes to take Kansas City?
Possibly. Quite possibly. I think that would have to be Shanahan's call. I don't know if the Niners would let him go.
It would have to take the Niners being really bad, I think, for him to be fired at this point, honestly.
Well, what about if the Rams, what about if Sean McVay leaves to go do TV? Which could happen at any point. Like, let's say they win the Super Bowl and then he leaves to go do TV. I don't know.
I really think, though, I think if they win the Super Bowl, I think that's it for Matt Stafford. I think Matt Stafford will, because Matt Stafford, because him and Matt, the two Matts are at the point where Matt Ryan's going to be that guy where he's always in the conversation because of the MVP. But you didn't win the Super Bowl, even though you could have.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, with Matt Stafford, I think him winning a second, like we saw Drew Brees get in, and I know everyone's kind of like, oh, but Eli Manning, no, Drew Brees. One underrated aspect about him is he is like top 5 in every single significant quarterback stat category. That's why he's going into Canton as a first year Hall of Famer. But with Matt Stafford, I really do think he is going to get in, but I think a second Super Bowl would be that you can walk on through the front door of getting your gold jacket from the 5 year. So he retires after this year. So in 2032, you're on the stage you're getting the knock on the door.
I would agree.
Yeah, that's just how I view that with him. But this year's Hall of Fame class, though, just before we wrap it up, I love to look at it because it's literally like, our childhoods where it's like, and did you know that Larry Fitzgerald had more receptions than drops in his career?
I have heard that. That's but yeah.
Yeah. Like, just like, looking at, it's like stats like that where like, I look at it with him and Eli, where everyone looks at Eli, always got the 2 Super Bowls and the MVPs, but I'm just like, but the rest of the career. I feel like everyone looks past that. Like, compared to the guys who aren't in and who have Super Bowls or who don't have Super Bowls, that's where it is. Like, I still feel like Eli Manning's going to get in. I just feel like next year, for example. Like, here's the thing, though.
And I think he should wait. I think the other guys, because like Drew Brees got in this year, Big Ben's eligible next year, and then Brady's eligible the year after that. I think he should wait.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, too. I feel like a lot of kids saw the back half of Ben's career, but from like 2005, pretty much 2013 was one of the most. That's the reason why for years it was either Ben, Brady, or Tom going to the Super Bowl for the AFC.
He was a better quarterback than Eli. And the thing is, Eli can't even trumpet the ring.
He was Cam Newton before Cam Newton, just with like the durability.
He's like the one of the best third down quarterbacks ever. Like in his prime, the dude was a third down savant. He would do that. He would scramble. He would take a hit from a defensive end, scramble to his right, and find an open guy. Like a lot of guys couldn't do that back then. They were more statuesque. Ben Roethlisberger was one of the more scrambling savants that showed itself on third down over and over and over and over and over again. He's a piece of shit human being, awful person. But as a quarterback, yeah, he's a better quarterback than Eli Manning. He deserves to go in first. And I think it's inevitable. Like, because Eli last year didn't even make the finalist list. And I think it's because Drew Brees was getting in. And I think you'll see this again the next few years. These guys that are just going to, these quarterbacks that are going to have better cases than him, he's going to inevitably have to wait probably until after Brady gets in.
I also do think with quarterbacks as well, the Hall of Fame committee only wants to get one guy in a year for quarterback. I don't think they want more than one quarterback going in at a time.
Yeah, and look, Eli outside of the Super Bowl years doesn't have a great case, so I think it's fine. And like, the Super Bowl years matter. I'm not saying they don't, but I think it's totally fine to make him wait. And like I'm looking at next year's eligibility. Like, look at this. Outside of Big Ben, Gronk is eligible. He's getting in. Adrian Peterson is eligible. He's getting in. Richard Sherman is eligible. He's getting in. Andrew Whitworth, in my opinion, should get in first ballot, but
he may have to wait just because there's other names in there that are
just
greater.
And we saw this with Antonio Gates, and I forget if Luke Kuechly as well.
Kuechly's going in this year. But I was shocked, and Gates had to wait a year. I remember saying on the show a few years ago, Gates was a lock because in July, like, it's honestly funny. During my training camp Patriots show, we always go through the Hall of Famers, who's going to get in, who's not going to get in, and I said Gates was a lock to go in first ballot, and I was shocked when he wasn't.
Yeah, because sometimes it's just a bottleneck. Like, I'm trying to look it up now. I believe Kuechly, I thought this. I wasn't quite sure. Kuechly wasn't first ballot either.
No, this year is Kuechly, Vinatieri, Fitzgerald, and Drew.
Yeah, and Kuechly, my point is Kuechly should have been first ballot, but wasn't. Gates should have been first ballot, but wasn't. Similarly, next year, all these guys, there's going to be one clear omission. It'll probably be Andrew Whitworth, poor guy. He doesn't deserve it, but like he has just as strong of a case as everybody else. But they're not going to make Adrian Peterson wait. They're not going to make Gronk wait. So they very well might just say, Whitworth, sorry, like, we're going to have to punt this for another year.
Sherman may be another guy who may have to wait. Yeah. I don't know if he would, but like, it wouldn't. I don't know. I think it's 50-50 to where if he did have to wait, it wouldn't shock me. But if he got in as well in his first try, it wouldn't shock me either.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I guess Whitworth only has 3 All-Pros. I thought he had more than that. I thought he had like 7. Because he played forever. He played for like 15 years, and he's a Super Bowl champion. But he has 2 first-team All-Pros and 1 second-team All-Pro, 4 Pro Bowls. So it's possible, actually likely, that they will make Whitworth wait a while. Sherman was like one of the most iconic players of one of the best teams of all time. I don't know if they'll make him wait. And obviously Adrian Peterson and Gronk, no, like those guys need to be first ballot, both of them.
Before we wrap up today, I'm going to say this. If you've listened to this long, please tweet the two of us saying DVOA EPA per play, because that's how we know you've listened for this almost 2-hour mega episode. But it's been long overdue, because the last time I talked to Big Rat was after the Patriots had beat the Chargers and before the national championship. So it's been almost 4.5 months since we last talked. But we are going to shift gears back to the Canadian side of the league, as I am having Shane Ryan from 13th Man Sports on to cover the Ottawa Red Blacks and all that stuff for tomorrow night. Big Rat, buddy, it's been a blast as always getting to talk with you. 433 of these. You were here for 400 back in October. Hopefully, and 500 is going to be here soon before we know it. It's going to be here soon. Thanks for having me on. It was a blast, and football will be here sooner before we know it. Like American football, sooner before we know it, hopefully. Yes. For all of you listening out there who live in America, Canadian football is back this Thursday night with Hamilton hosting Montreal. But NFL and college will be back in the next 8 weeks, but NFL is also going into they're going into their little hibernation, I say. Yeah. Like, it's the true quiet of the offseason is coming up after minicamp. June through after minicamp until late July. That's like the window where everything kind of calms down. It's either guys getting extended or someone did something stupid.
Yeah. Sadly, yeah.
Yeah. Sadly, that's just the sad nature of the sport. That's the rules. I say it's either look, you're getting a contract or you got arrested. It's just or you got yourself into some trouble. It's one of the two. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the business.
But thanks for having me.
But no problem. It's always a blast getting to talk to you. Next time we'll see you. Who knows when it'll be? AFC preview show probably coming out beginning not till September this year because the season starts September 9th when the Patriots go up to Seattle to kick off the season. But that's neither here nor there. 433 of these in the bag. We'll see you tomorrow night for 434. Have a great night, everyone.
Peace.